Good evening, college sports fans. I'm Sam Gillette from Sam Talk Sports. This is the College Football Roundtable, and we have a jam-packed show for you today. Lots of guests on tonight. None other than Pop himself. You're gonna have to sit up. You're blending in with the background. Pop, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing good.
Did you gain any notable followers since your rant last week?
My dog follows me around.
Yeah. Did Thomas Payne reach out?
No, Thomas Payne didn't reach out.
Well, if you missed it, go check our show from last week. Pop had a brilliant rant about the CFP and I'm not going to ruin it. Go check it out. And joining us again, deep from inside Big Ten country, Todd from Todd Talk Sports. Try that again. Todd, how are you tonight?
I'm doing well. How about you guys?
Doing well. Anything new in Todd's world this week?
We just got a lot of injuries here in Ohio State land. We got, Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, both injured here.
Oh, man. So what you're saying is there's a chance Michigan can get their fourth in a row?
Well, it would be their fifth. Let's not go crazy here.
I knew it was up there. Also in Big Ten country, we have making his first appearance, Jack Sandberg. You guys look kind of similar. Is there a reason for that?
Well, I think I'm the son.
And Jack, you play for Wilmington College, or played. I guess you had your last game this week.
Yes, sir.
Linebacker, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And how'd that feel knowing your last game was this week?
Well, it made me play a little harder, and knowing that
Speak up there, son. Speak up.
knowing that my body can hurt for a little bit now, but it ain't gonna hurt forever.
Right. Good deal. Yeah, I miss my playing days, that's for sure. And also making his first appearance is the Bronco believer, Jacob Blaymeyer. Jacob, why Bronco believer?
Yeah, well, obviously the face should be familiar to some people, but the name is probably pretty new since I just changed it yesterday. But obviously, formerly Bronco Blaymeyer channel, but now I wanted to make a change, an intentional change here with the way that the season is going for Boise State and the way the future potentially looks for this program. There are going to be a lot of very tough conversations. There have already been tough conversations on the channel, certainly something I've not shied away from in the past, having started my season right before my channel, right before the Andy Avalos era. However, right now, the current future right now, the immediate future does not look super bright for Boise State. But I want to remind everybody that no matter what I might have to say, some of the harsh conversations and some of the analytical criticism that I have to present, no matter what, I believe in the future of this program. While the near future may be rocky, the future ahead beyond those shores is extremely bright. And so to remind everybody where my intent, my heart lies in all the content that I make, changing the channel name to The Bronco Believer.
All right. And joining us deep inside the Appalachians, another P5 advocate, Mr. Dominic Crusetto. How are you, Dom?
Pretty good, gentlemen. Glad to be here. Happy to talk some top quality football.
Yes, sir. Dominic's part of the Sunbelt Syndicate, who just had their bourbon and football, or bourbon and ball. Is that what you called it? Or
yeah, shortened it, but it was mostly about football. I said bourbon and ball just because some of the write-ups had to do with the school or the program as a whole, but a lot of it was pretty specific to football.
All right. So, gentlemen, you ready to talk some football?
Absolutely.
All right.
Let's do it.
Well, we're going to start segment one. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time on three of these teams because we've talked about them the last 2 weeks. Ohio State, Indiana, and Texas A&M all remain in the top four, Georgia being the new one to the party. Let's talk about who's most likely to miss a first-round bye. Ohio State has Rutgers at Michigan and then the Big Ten championship game unless they lose to Michigan. And I think they have to lose to Rutgers too. If you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. And then you have Indiana has a bye this week. They beat Purdue next week. They're in the Big Ten championship. And then you have Texas A&M has Samford at Texas, and then maybe the SEC championship game. And then Georgia versus Charlotte, Georgia Tech on a neutral site. Georgia's done an SEC play. They can't lose another SEC game. But if they lose if they don't make the championship and lose one or two of those spots, they could lose their top 4 spot. So let's discuss it. Ohio State. Let's talk to the Ohio Staties up there. Is Ohio State a lock for a top 4 spot?
Well, it would seem that way. With I can't see. Michigan now has both running backs out, looks like potentially for the season. And I think Ohio State will get the receivers back next week. I think they're just sitting them out precautionary this week against Rutgers. So I'm looking pretty comfortable that Ohio State will get a top 4 seed. What do you think, Jack?
Well, anything can happen. And, Ohio State lost last year, but I don't see them losing this year.
I don't think anyone saw them losing last year either, but this one's at Michigan this year. Do you think that's going to play a big factor?
It surely could. The weather looks like there could be some snow, so it could be a factor, no doubt.
Jacob, sorry, I was looking at Dom and thinking of you. That's a recipe for a breakup anywhere. Do you think the snow is probably going to play? If it does snow, is that going to play to Ohio State's strength or to Michigan's strength?
Well, I just hope Ohio State have the players, coaches, fans have long memories. They're going to have to go back and look in some of the YouTube videos of former Ohio State teams if they want to remember beating Michigan, since the last time they did it was in 2019.
Yeah.
I lived in Ohio for a long time, where I played my high school football. My dad was stationed up at Wright Pat there. And I got to say, go Michigan. Excited for this one.
All right. Dominic, you share the same sentiments? App State famously beat Michigan that one time. You think Ohio State could do it? Finally?
They did. I was there. That was a fun one. I would say that Georgia or Ohio State are the ones that I would say are most likely to lose out on a spot with one single loss, because mainly the other teams just have it a lot easier, right? Like Indiana only has one game left against the worst team in the conference. So I'm not seeing them miss out on anything. And we just know the history with Michigan and Ohio State. It's not an easy game for either team to win, but for whatever reason, one has been better at it than the other. So I don't know, though. You just never know. But that's the one that I think would be the one I'd have to put some more on than the other. I would expect Georgia to take care of Georgia Tech. I know what happened last year, but if Georgia plays up to their typical standard, that one's the one that I don't see being as close.
Yeah.
I will say I'm mostly joking about Ohio State, Michigan. I am going to be rooting for Michigan, but I don't expect Michigan to win that game. I expect Ohio State will. It's been too long, especially when you start to have stacked losses over a period of time. The motivation factor becomes huge. Ohio State knows what they're playing for right now. They have the Big Ten championship pretty much locked up. They have the CFP appearance. Even if they lost to Michigan, they're probably still into the CFP. And so all of those goals are met, but the one goal, the one that always seems to escape, at least recently, Ohio State is beating Michigan. So I'm actually not concerned as far as their chances of beating that team. I think they will. My actual team, if you're talking about teams I think are going to find themselves looking on the outside when it comes to the top 4, which, by the way, can I say I think is a good thing. Getting that playoff bye is not an advantage, as every single team from last year can tell you it's just too long. Had a couple former players on last year to talk about it when we were previewing the season, and while they didn't make excuses, they said, Penn State beat us fair and square. They said a factor was certainly the rust that builds up. It's like you're restarting the season with that 3.5 weeks basically, while the other team just played a game 10 days to 2 weeks ago. But I will say my team, if I'm going to pick one on here to miss out on the top 4 spot in the playoffs, is going to be Texas A&M. We saw it happen last week versus South Carolina. They are ready for an upset. That is this Texas A&M way. I mean, if there's one thing that they believe down there in Texas, it's, the Bible is the way, and then you've got to lose late in the season. And certainly for Texas A&M, when you're facing a team like Texas towards the end of the year here, I mean, Samford's not going to beat them, but Texas, they don't have anything else to play for. They don't. Their season is over as far as their big goals go, but getting a chance to knock off Texas A&M, it is a rivalry game, of course, getting a chance to knock off Texas A&M with their Nepo baby quarterback, that would be a huge win for them. And I think the cards play out. Texas A&M, of course, they're going to be nervous. I think it might be a little bit too conservative. If I'm going to pick one team that loses out here, ends up outside the top 4, Texas A&M is my pick.
Pop, Georgia's got Georgia Tech, famously the overtime thriller of last year. Haynes King fumbles the ball in the final possession that set Georgia up to tie that one up. Is we sit looking for a repeat of that game this year? Is Georgia in trouble of losing the top 4 spot?
Is Jack the Georgia Tech fan?
Yeah.
I'm not a Georgia Tech fan, but I do like them.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, you look like a pretty big feller. I'm not sure I ought to go against you. I'm afraid I still got to say, I would like for them to surprise me, but I think Georgia Tech's a bridesmaid, not a bride.
Yeah. We'll see. I mean, we've got 2 weeks of gameplay left for most schools. It's the SEC definitely will not be decided this week. Just Cupcake Week does not decide championships. Next week, though, is going to be a fun one. I think Georgia and A&M are the two that are most susceptible, with Texas and Georgia Tech on the schedule for the final games. The CFP has already made it clear last year that conference championships aren't going to hurt your CFP position. It may move you up and down, but it ain't going to knock you out. So a loss in a conference championship game for either Texas A&M or Georgia, if they were to meet there, they may flip spots depending on where they're at. They may drop one side outside of the top 24, or excuse me, the top 4, but they're not going to drop out of the playoffs. So I think all 4 of these teams, given the games they have left, all 4 of them can lose one of their final games and still make the CFP. Whether or not they in the top 4 will be for the committee to decide. Todd, do you kind of share that same sentiment?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if you look at if let's just say tragedy happens here and Ohio State does lose to Michigan, they won't play in the Big 12 or the Big 10 championship game at that point, so they can't get a second loss.
Right.
I think, though, where you could be wrong on if let's just say Michigan beat Ohio State, went to the Big 10 championship game and lost to Indiana, I think it would hurt Michigan because that would give them 3 losses. So I don't think they'd make the college football playoff if they beat Ohio State and lost in the Big 10 championship game. I don't see how Michigan would get in at that point.
Yeah, I think Michigan's only path to the CFP is to win the Big 10.
Yeah, I think so too. They got to win 2 games there at the end. So
yeah.
Then they got to beat Maryland on Saturday.
Yeah. And that's not a given either.
Not with the running back situation that they have right now. Although Maryland's not great anywhere, but they definitely could. They could lose that game. Yeah. It would be the most Michigan thing to do, to lose to Maryland and then beat Ohio State.
Yeah,
we can put it at that. So,
well, moving along, who's most likely to crack the top 4? Should A&M or Georgia? Let's just be honest. Ohio State and Indiana, barring a complete meltdown, they're locked in the top 4. They just don't have a big enough chance to lose 2 of their final games. Indiana only having Purdue, and they're not going to lose that one. So Texas A&M or Georgia, one of them falls out. Who takes their place? You have Texas Tech in the wake. They have a bye week this week, and then they're at West Virginia, and then the Big 12 championship game. Then you have Ole Miss has a bye, and then Mississippi State. Oregon has number 15 USC and at Washington. Oklahoma number 22 Mizzou and LSU both at home. Notre Dame has Syracuse and Stanford at home. Alabama, Cupcake Week with Eastern Illinois and Auburn. Then they go to Auburn. And then BYU, probably the one that's least likely to crack, but they're at Cincy and then home against USF and then maybe the Big 12 championship game. Jacob, who do you think on that list is the most likely to be able to crack that top 4 spot?
Most likely to crack, and you kind of hit them already, the candidates at least. But my top 3 are just going to be the top 3 that are in the rankings, because everybody else after this has 2 or more losses that you're looking at. So Texas Tech, Ole Miss, and Oregon. I think Ole Miss is in a position where they would need other teams, a lot of other teams, to lose. They need Texas Tech and potentially Texas A&M, one of those other programs, to lose. Their only loss of the season is to Georgia, but they haven't really beat anybody else. They've beaten an Oklahoma team who's 8-2, but other than that, if you look at their schedule, they haven't really beaten anyone else. And so it's kind of like Boise State riding off of that loss to Oregon last year that kind of vaults them to the forefront. I mean, Lane Kiffin obviously is exciting. Their offense is exciting, but they've had a couple of close scares, like, almost losing to Washington State, and they don't really have a super strong record. So while I'm not saying they don't deserve to be top 10, I don't think they have enough left right now with really just the Egg Bowl in Mississippi State program left to get a chance to vault them in. Oregon has played nobody. I mean, they have played absolutely. There are two teams that looked like good wins earlier in the year: Penn State and Iowa. Penn State's now 4-6, and Iowa is 6-4. And they do have a couple of teams left that could be solid wins in the number 15 USC and then a 7-3 Washington program. But neither of those teams, I think, are good enough to vault you in minor, massive chaos in the top 4 and a couple, 2 or 3 teams losing ahead of you. So my pick is actually Texas Tech. I think they have the strongest record of all these teams outside the top 4. They have a 9-1 BYU, who's number 11 in the country. They have a number 12 Utah, and then just recently cracking the top 25, 7-3 ASU team that they've all beat. They don't have a great team that they have to play next week in West Virginia. But if Texas A&M loses to Texas, as I am predicting that they do, if Texas A&M loses to Texas, that's losing to a number 17 team. Texas A&M is going to fall, maybe not catastrophically. They may still be in the top 10, but they're going to fall below. And I think Texas Tech is the program that advances.
All right. Jack, Texas Tech, Ole Miss, Oregon, Oklahoma. That probably Oklahoma's the bottom of the ones that can probably make it. Who's your pick to crack that top 4?
Well, it's going to be Texas Tech, just because with the way Committee's been this year, if Georgia somehow loses, they're probably just going to shift everything up.
Yeah. A complete meltdown, Todd. If A&M and Georgia both lose, and 2 people get up, I think it's the consensus Texas Tech, unless they somehow lose to West Virginia, would get in. But if you have 2 teams that lose, who's the second team that jumps?
Whew, man. The second team that I like the Texas Tech moving up. I think they have a really good shot of moving up into the top 4. After that, honestly, I don't think anybody else can. Honestly, at that point, I mean, you'd have to have mass chaos for that to occur.
I think probably the most likely would be Oregon with their number 15 USC win.
Yeah, I mean that would probably be.
Yeah, their only loss is to Indiana anyway this year.
Yeah,
so I could see that happening. Dom, of the teams that are Texas Tech's probably a lock for the playoffs. Ole Miss, unless they lose to Mississippi State to round out the season, is probably a lock for the playoffs. Oregon, Oklahoma, Notre Dame, Alabama, and BYU. Who's most likely to miss the playoffs that are currently in position to kind of climb if they win?
Oh, you switched it on me. But first, I'll start by saying I kind of agree with you, because I was looking at the resume building aspect of it, right? Who had anybody left of note? And I agreed with you that Oregon had the biggest resume booster with number 15 USC still there. So Oregon was going to be my pick to possibly jump up, but that would also, for me, say that they're not going to put 3 Big Ten schools in. So that would have to be Ohio State losing to Michigan. That would vault, somebody up that way. Otherwise, I'd agree with the Texas Tech pick for sure there. Who is most likely to miss out completely? Well, I guess, we could stick with Ole Miss, right? They've got the turmoil with Kiffin going on. Does that factor into these kids, the atmosphere, all this stuff in the background? Maybe, because a loss to Mississippi State would be pretty damning. I don't think it's impossible, although it is unlikely. That would probably be ugly enough at the wrong time of year that people could, think that they don't deserve to be there.
Yeah. Yeah. And of course, you have Mississippi State famously giving up, 28 points in the last 9 minutes of the fourth quarter against Texas to lose that one. So,
if I could, and on the concept of a team missing out, if I can kind of throw out a wild card at you, it would be so in line with what this team has done in the past. Texas A&M. Let's say that they do lose to Texas, okay? Let's say that they do lose to a Texas program that has currently not really done anything so far this season. Let's say they lose to a 7-3 Texas team by 2 or 3 scores, all right? And that drops them down to the edge of the top 10. I mean, there's a Texas A&M program that doesn't have a ton of huge wins under their belt. They have a couple of good teams, but they don't have a ton of like back-to-back record-stacking resume builders. And also, I think the committee at that point would see it as kind of a second strike. Almost losing to South Carolina and then you lose to Texas kind of shows this compounding errors of a Texas A&M program that isn't as strong as other people think. That would also likely knock them out of the SEC championship game. And now you would, because Ole Miss and Texas A&M haven't played each other, so now it's just a head-to-head in the rankings. You would probably see Ole Miss and Georgia playing in the SEC. So now they don't have a chance to make it up in the SEC championship game. That is kind of the chaos scenario of a potential. Now, I think if Texas A&M only loses by a score or something, they're probably still in. But if you want to talk about a team almost maybe being out, that would be my pick.
You know, you have everyone's talking about the SEC bias and the SEC wanting their 4 teams in and everything. And then you have the theories going around or solutions going around, I should say. It says the FCC wants to have all their teams in the playoffs, think they're the best conference from top to bottom. Just drop the SEC from the NCAA and let everybody else get back to college football. So do you think that's going to play a role in having some of these teams, even if they lose, not drop so far down? Because it's all about the money at this point for your conference. And then ESPN has the SEC network and all that. And so, I mean, they're not shying away about not wanting to give money outside of the family, basically. With all the talk trying to push the SEC, and you got Feinbaum up there talking that no one else really deserves a spot in the SEC.
We interrupt your regularly scheduled program to bring you this important announcement from the Emergency Sports Broadcasting Network. Weak constitutions should seek shelter immediately. Pop is about to pop off.
I gotta tell you, last week I called for a realignment of the conferences, and I sit and listen to everybody talk, and the committee might decide this, and if they lose 2 games, they might decide that, and how is this thing going to go? And all I'd like to do is to get this game back decided on the field and out of the committees. But they've run us some other things that nobody kind of seems to put 2 and 2 together. They started this portal thing going in 2018. And it went for, it's just going to be to make it easier for the players to transfer. That's all we're going to do. Just make it easy. They're still going to have to do their sit out. And then, okay, now they don't have to do their sit out. And it's good. They can only transfer once. And now it's unlimited transfers as much as they want to do. You got players can hop here and there and wherever they think they can get whatever it is that they want, leaving benches vacant. Coaches don't know what to do with it because their players are going everywhere else. And then, do you think it's just a coincidence that a couple of years after we get this portal launched that we have the NIL come in? Oh, look at here. Now we got the portal where you got unlimited transfers, and we got schools that are able to pay you money that are in the upper echelon. These big guys that's got all of the money and got all of the alma maters and everything that they can do to where they can say, yeah, get in that portal. We'll bring you over here. We'll make you some money. We'll get you some deals where you can do advertisement and sell different things and make more money. And that's what they got. And they duped us. We thought this portal was a good thing. We thought this NL was a good thing for the player. And all it was is a way for them to centralize power in the upper echelons of these leagues. This isn't college football anymore. This is a multi-million-dollar industry. And their money grubbers in the upper echelons are keeping the money to themselves and feeding this stuff to us, making us think, oh, we got a little something going on. But I'm telling you, it's time for us to not put up with it. We need to have ourselves a Burt Bell rise up. If we can't get them to realign the conferences and do other things, we need a Burt Bell to rise up and help us in the college football field and the way that he did in the NFL. Who's Burt Bell, you may ask? He's the man that started the NFL draft. And he started it because the NFL teams had very, very rich teams and very, very poor teams. And it was a way for the field to be equalized so that all the teams had a shot at all of the best players, could put them on the field and make it happen. The ones that didn't have as many resources weren't as bad off as what it would be. It's time to call for a college football draft. Let's get it to where there's even playing fields. Everybody gets a shot at the best talent. Everybody gets a shot at to where the best talent can't be bought. They can't just jump into a portal and go off to one of the bigger schools and make more money. They got to be under some kind of a couple-year contract or something. It's time for this idea to take hold, to get some justice, get some equality, get a level playing field, get the talent spread out among the conferences. It's time to go to war. It's time for a battle. It's time to lend your eye a cognitive aspect so that you see what's going on in college football. It's time to rise up. It's time. The final thing. It's time. For NFL or for a college football draft.
All right. Well,
that was passionate. I can
that
tell you
way.
that.
A college football draft. How would that even work?
Well, same way the NFL draft works. They declare for it the way they declare for the NFL draft. They'd have to contract for a couple of years to whatever school drafted them. The lowest record school would get the first draft the same way they do in the NFL. They'd have the ability to trade off their drafts if they couldn't afford, the signing bonuses or whatever. They could trade off to schools that could, and it'd move up. And then instead of the portal being a portal, it would be a free agency. And right now the schools don't get compensation. They put all that money into somebody, and on a whim, he's up and gone off to another school. They put what they put into him, and they get no return for it. This way, if the player is traded on his request after the 2-year contract, the school that takes him has to pay compensation to the school that he's leaving. We do a lot away with a lot of this whim stuff, and everybody would get recognition. You'd get news recognition and everything else going on because they'd cover. I mean, they started with 90 players in the NFL draft, and what is it now? I mean, you got TVs and everybody signing on, and it's a big deal, big party, bourbon and beer kind of stuff, or bourbon and ball kind of stuff and things. Dominic probably be in on it real big, but anyway, it would work out just exactly like the NFL draft would. Your college student or high school students coming in would sign, because what this is doing with 105 cap the way they are, and there's a lot of details in this I'm not going to get into, but they're basically eliminating, whether you like it or not, the ability to walk on to a college football and make your way onto the team the way they're setting this thing up. Any other question?
Dominic, what do you think, since he called you out? Do you think bourbon and balls should be a college football draft entity?
I don't know about a draft. I haven't really thought of that aspect before hearing it just now, to be honest. I do like, and I do agree with the compensation aspect. When you've got, an SEC team that's going to take a kid from a group of 5 or 6 school, and, that kid developed 3 years under someone else's tutelage and coaching. And like Pop said, they're not getting any compensation for that. Up and gone with nothing to show for it. You can buy this player from us, sure, and then they get something for having developed a player that's going to go spend only 1 year at this other institution. I like that aspect as well. And then the kid's also feeling like not only are they telling me they're going to bring me in, they're literally paying for me to make that move, a la transfer fees in European soccer, right? Like, we're going to give you a big contract, but we're also going to pay this other team or institution this money to restore what we're taking from them. So I don't, at some point the money will run dry. But if they're going to do what they're doing now and it's going to be a free for all, then at least the lower programs are getting something for the development of players.
Jacob, do you think a draft is feasible?
No, not a draft, but I do like what Dominic's talking about with some kind of contractual negotiations. I think that's probably where college football is headed in general. I mean, with NIL and all the abuses in NIL, and now they're trying to correct it. It's what they wanted to avoid, which is why the NCAA dug their feet in for so long. But now that we've opened that Pandora's box, it's just all coming out. And so I do think that some form of contractual obligations where you're locked into a 2-year or something like that deal, like you were talking about, Pop. I think that's totally valid. A 2-year or something like that deal where you can't just simply willy-nilly jump to any school that you want to. And if you do, there's going to be some kind of, they are going to have to pay you or you're going to have to pay them out of your own new NIL deal or whatever it is. I think that's valid. I think the idea of a college football draft is a fun one, but now you've got 134 or however many teams we're up to now, 137 or something like that, college football teams. And there's a lot more that goes into where you go and play than simply playing on the field, right? I mean, it's an education. And we forget all that, right? At the end of the day, that there is an education, a degree behind these college athletes, the college element of the athlete. And so I think that, yes, the football team and their success and where they play, that's a factor. But at the end of the day, it's also about the culture of the school and your beliefs, political or religious, and the geographic location and all these other things. And so, should some kid who wants to go play in on the East Coast end up having to find himself playing at Wyoming because they drafted him, top 10 because they suck. I mean, I like the concept. It's a fun concept. I love college football head games and what ifs and revisionist history kind of things. I love all of that. I think this one's kind of more of a fun one versus a practical one, but I love the passion. That was I was laughing the whole time. That's a good time.
Jack, what do you think? You're over there. You look like you are just busting at the seams with ideas.
Well, I have a feeling that maybe it needs to be regulated a little bit better. So maybe instead of being able to walk on immediately and get an NIL deal at one of these big schools, maybe make it that you have to play at one of these schools or at least be at the school for a year before you can get any compensation to allow yourself to prove what you're worth. Because a lot of these, like from Texas, he's got all these NIL deals before he even touched the field. And now he's not looking nearly as good as he is, but, he's got all that pressure on him.
Yeah.
Maybe allow him to prove what he can do, then allow him to take in this compensation.
Yeah.
Because he had these big names, big pressure, big money before he even threw a ball for Texas.
Right. Yeah, and that's one thing I've said all year long is everyone's expecting Arch Manning to be Peyton Manning in his prime right off the bat and not giving him the chance to develop into that quarterback. And coming down on him with, like you said, all the pressure and everything, it gets to people. So for sure.
Well, if his name was Arch, Frank, he wouldn't be playing at Texas. He's playing there because it's like Brett Favre. You remember he had a nephew who played college football. He played at Idaho State. It'd be like if Brett Favre, just because he's the nephew of Brett Favre, hey, go start for Georgia. Like Arch Manning could have gone somewhere else. Maybe he wasn't good enough for the Power Four. I mean, certainly isn't looking like that right now at the SEC. Maybe he goes plays a group of 5. Maybe he goes and plays at a D2 level and kind of proves himself a little bit, and then gets an opportunity to work his way up where he's developing his skills. Like you said, Jack, doesn't have all that pressure on him, and he's having to come in and live up to that. I just think it's a bad situation for all the other college athletes that don't get that opportunity because he did, and it's a bad situation for him getting a situation that he didn't necessarily earn. So,
yeah, and there's some disparity between your upper echelons of the P4 and your lower echelons of the P4, but you still have that money there. Texas Tech was a mid to lower echelon, and they spent a bunch of money on their line and everything, and now they're looking to crack the top 4 of the CFP. But the biggest disparity is from that middle P4 area to the G5, the top of the G5. And right now the G5 race looks like it's down to 3 people, 3 teams, Tulane, James Madison, and North Texas, with East Carolina, who has an outside shot and of getting there if they win out and get some help. And then you have Navy that's right there as well, winning out and getting some help can get them there. And Kenneth Maynor says East Carolina are still tied for first, looking to win out in the American with a little help and pillage. With a little help, they can pillage a playoff spot, which isn't out of the realm of possibilities with the way the AAC is eating itself. They could very well jump up and get that spot. So there's a lot there, a lot that can happen. But is the Dominic, is the G5, is it down to 3 teams, or are there some other teams that might be able to jump in there and grab it?
Well, I do agree with ECU being a good possibility because they end with UTSA and FAU. East Carolina has really gotten better as the season's worn on. They're not any shot for a great chance, though, with like 3 losses, 1 to NC State, BYU, and then the one in conference to Tulane. That's going to be the one that they're going to have to overcome as far as tie-breaking procedure is concerned. But you know, they get these last 2 wins, they get to the American Championship and strengthen that resume. Possibly. You've got Navy sitting there with them too, right? I mean, they've got an 8-2 overall record, 6-1. They've got Memphis and Army left. We know the Army game should be a win with how Army's looking so far this year. Still not an easy one. Memphis, a little bit of a resume builder, not quite as strong as the others. But Tulane has Temple left, and you know, I wore this hat tonight for my brother. He graduated Temple Law, so I put that thing on there. I'd like to see Tulane lose for, you know, Sunbelt reasons. But then Temple and Charlotte. Charlotte won't be difficult. And then you've got UNT ending with Rice and Temple. So Temple's got a shot to really play spoiler here. They can't do anything to make the American Championship game, but they can ruin other people's chances. That's what I hope for some chaos, because James Madison is sitting there at 9-1, 7-0 in the Sun Belt. Yes, the Sun Belt isn't as impressive this year. They've got Wazoo coming into town this weekend. They've got Coastal Carolina following that up. Coastal has a shot at South Carolina. We saw what South Carolina is capable of, so a possible resume builder if somehow Coastal could get over South Carolina. Don't expect that to happen, because Coastal's best quarterback is now out for possibly the year. There's a chance he could make it back for a bowl game, but they're running with former UNC quarterback Tad Hudson at the quarterback position for the remainder of their regular season. But I just think this JMU team is looking impressive, and we'll see what they can do. But as we know, the hurdle to overcome is going to be difficult, because even with the USF loss, they did not find themselves within the top 25 of the CFP. Tulane has that. So they are rewarding the American Conference greatly. They're the only really other ones in the conversation. One Sun Belt school and about 3 or 4 American teams as a possibility.
Yeah. And Tulane, you got to wonder what Tulane's going to do this next week with at Temple, and then the last game at Charlotte, whenever your coach comes out and says, quote, "There are some days I feel we're in the bottom 25 teams in the country watching us play. There must be a lot of bad football going on if we're one of the top 25 teams." And he went on to say, we're average. We're an average team. We get either 6 or 7 days, depending on schedule of the week, to promote ourselves or embarrass ourselves, and we've done that before. We better get ready to play. I watched us practice today. I think we're average. Whenever your coach is saying that on national television, how is that? And I'll go to you, Jack. If your coach told you that whenever you get ranked and your team's hyped up and ready to go, and your coach came out and said that on national television, what does that do to your mentality?
Well, you can either take it 2 ways. You can take it as a way to get to that next step, seeing that, all right, am I average? How do I get to better than average? How do I get to great? Or you can look at it and get, upset about it and, crawl in a little hole. So you might as well just take the step.
Yeah. Jacob, what are you thinking?
I would pay any amount of money to hear Spencer Danielson come out in a press conference and say that. Oh my gosh, I wish that he would say something like that instead of "we have the best quarterback that you could find in the history of college football." And I wouldn't. No, I want a coach that comes out and says, "I have standards, and a win is not a win just because you get there, just because you're in the top 25. It matters how you get there. How are we playing? What are we capable of? Are we going to get there and embarrass ourselves, or are we going to play the standard that we have for this university institution?" And I think that's probably what the Tulane players are hearing. They're top 25. Their family members are calling them. They're excited. And the coach is saying, okay, hey, that's great. Be excited. I don't need to tell you to be excited, but I do need to tell you that the season's not won yet, and we haven't won it by a long shot because we've had opportunities where we could have lost it along the way. And so that, for me, that is the perfect coaching mentality. I think the players, if they're going to take it the other way, it just proves that the coach is right. And I think he is trying to motivate his guys, and this is getting to them, and I think they're going to go out and win it well. I think that it is a tough spot for JMU because I'm going to tell you honestly, my opinion, I think JMU deserves the playoffs this year. I think they have the best win of all of the group of 6 programs right now over a Power 4 type team. It's a Louisville team that's actually doing really well, 7-3 overall. I think they have the best record so far. I think the biggest factor in all this, the reason they're not getting that love is because of the way that we have the playoff system. I missed the rant. I'll have to go back and watch that from last week. So maybe you already covered this, Pop, but the group of the CFP system is based on human beings that are full-time. They have full-time jobs. Okay. They're athletic directors or they're coaches or they're media members. They have full-time jobs. They're not like some of us that love college football enough that on a Saturday we're going to say, hey, everything else aside, we're going to sit down and watch every single game, or at least most of every single game. They're not doing that. They're not watching Troy, whoever they're playing. They're not watching Utah State, whoever they're playing. They're watching the big matchups on the big networks. They might catch most of the top 25 worthy Power 4 programs, but they're not watching the rest of college football. So they're going to make a determination based on the games they happen to catch or the highlight reels that popped up on other games they were watching or the standings when they go back and review it. And they're going to make a predetermined determination. Honestly, at the end of the day, it's just a group of 5. Who cares? They're not going to think about it too much. And at least that's their mindset. And so yeah, I think they have predetermined that the American Athletic Conference is going to be the conference that gets their team in, and at least unless somebody massively stubs their toe here, and there is a path which I could go into, but I don't want to take up too much time here, but unless the American Athletic Conference massively stubs their toe, I think at this point, despite the fact that JMU 100% deserves this, they're not going to end up, and it will be an American Athletic Conference team.
Yeah.
So who is going to be, let's just say everybody wins out in the American. What does that put us as the 2 teams? You know, is it Navy and North Texas? Is it Tulane?
See, Navy clinches the AAC with a win over Memphis. They clinch an appearance.
Okay.
And then it's this weekend will probably lighten the load or make a clearer picture anyway, because you have Tulane, you've got North Texas, you got USF, who's still mathematically in it even with their loss, and you've got ECU, who's probably the most likely to miss out. But there's so many teams that are right there at that 5-1 spot, and then you got USF at 4-2. So Navy wins with the win over Memphis. Memphis is out completely, so they're going to be playing spoilers. So it's going to be an interesting race.
It should be Navy if all teams, or at least the top ones, win out, then it should be Navy and Tulane, because Tulane and North Texas haven't played each other, and they'll have the same record, and Tulane will be higher ranked. So it should be Tulane. And then remember, the Army game doesn't count for anything. It's played after the conference championship game, so it's not even considered for the playoffs. So that is something that Navy's just agreed to, and so is Army, that's going to be a hindrance. They'll be judged on an 11 or a 11-game record, and the Army game is just an exhibition at this point.
Which is dumb. I like Todd. You said this on our first episode that the Army-Navy game should kick off college football.
I mean, if the way we're going to change this, I mean, it's so. Let's just use Navy as the example here. Let's just say they win the American Conference, which I'm rooting for because the quarterback's right here from Columbus, Ohio. But let's say they win and they're going to get the 12th seed. They got to go on the road or I don't know where the game is this year between the Army Navy game, but they got to play Army while everyone else is getting ready to play the next week in the playoffs. And so they'll have to play literally, 3 games in a row there, championship game, the Army game, and then the playoff game. So it does give them a little, and again, this is probably the only year that Army or Navy is going to be this far into the playoff hunt this late in the season. I mean, it just isn't going to happen that often, but if it does
Not
happen,
if you do what I talking about doing.
right. Well, even with what you're talking about doing, it wouldn't work for Army Navy because you can't get drafted you can not get drafted in the Army Navy any longer. Right? So, that's not going to work. But it'll be interesting to see. I really think, honestly, guys, I think there's an upset brewing this weekend, and I think it's at James Madison. I think Washington State has proven that they can go on the road in these games and cause a little bit of havoc. They almost beat Ole Miss. Who else did they almost go play
Virginia.
pretty tight? Who was it?
Ole Miss, I think you said, and
Virginia.
yeah.
So
UVA.
I think Washington State could be I think they could trip up James Madison this week. I don't know that's going to happen. I just think they could.
Yeah. And James Madison, their only loss right now is the 14-point loss to Louisville. And Dominic, you want to shed some light on why that loss is a little bit more deceptive than what it actually probably should have been?
Yeah, absolutely. That's going back to the point that was just made about the committee not necessarily watching those games and paying close enough attention. At that point in the season, Alonzo Barnett, who was the one that put up 70 points on UNC the year previously, was still not 100%. And he actually saw very few snaps in that game compared to former UNLV quarterback Matthew Sluka. And Sluka's not known to be a passer, wasn't known at UNLV for it, didn't come into James Madison and totally win the job. So when he was in there, he was really the running, scrambling quarterback. And they were still kind of moving him out. So when Barnett would come into the game, the defense knew he was probably likely to throw and not try and beat him with his legs. It's a totally different offense that they're running now. They're built more with better chemistry at this point. They've really got Alonzo Barnett is spreading it throughout the entire wide receiver core and tight ends. He's got a utility knife in a running back called Wayne Knight, who can catch it out of the backfield and he can catch it downfield. He's just built for anything. The defense has just been completely solid. If you look at the list of teams they are with, is the top 15 in both scoring and defense. And the only other teams in there are all in the top 10 of the CFP rankings. So yeah, JMU in my mind belongs there because of that. You can go off of the wins and the strength of schedule, but to me, it's not the exact same team as the one that suffered that loss to Louisville early in the season.
I want to make a correction. I just realized I accidentally said win. I meant to say quality loss is what I was trying to say. But
we figured that.
But my main point with all of that is that you're facing Sun Belt versus America Third Conference. The hype of America Third Conference, their propaganda machine is probably the best in the entire country. The divide between America Third Conference and Sun Belt, I mean, really not that significant. It's mostly teams getting ranked early, like we saw with the CFP rankings, right? I think second week, right? They had like 3 America Third Conference teams in there, and then they all beat each other up, and they go, it's kind of like the SEC, but on a group of 6 level. Well, look, they beat each other. They're really good, and they're not actually as good as they seem to be compared to what some of these programs. And Sun Belt, for me, is one of the fastest rising conferences out there. I think especially when you're talking about next season, 2026, Pac-12, their main competition is going to be, yes, America Third Conference, but also the Sun Belt. And are you really telling me that a 12-1, which, JMU, if they were to go through all the way out, a 12-1 Sun Belt champion is not worthy over a 11-2 champion out of America Third Conference that doesn't have any clear, great top 25 type wins over any kind of other program? I just don't see that. I think that JMU deserves it. I don't think they'll get that opportunity, unfortunately. But yeah, I think that they will. Now, the point I want to cover real quick here when you're talking about JMU potentially getting upset, I think that might have happened maybe if the previous reports of them being on game day had turned out to be correct. But Now, the team, you know that the team saw that and heard that, and their families were talking about that, and now they're on ESPN Plus. That, when you talk about bulletin board material, a program that thinks that they should be in the conversation and nobody's even paying attention to them, bulletin board material being stuck on ESPN Plus, that I think would be a massive motivator, something to, and in the East, and Washington State's not going to be a team to overlook anyway. I think this is their chance to try and prove that they belong in the conversation. I think they'll come in ready. I think they'll beat Washington State by 3 scores.
Yeah, I was at the James Madison game last week against App State, and multiple people across multiple connections within the university told me they were in deep conversations, and that had they beat App State, which they did easily, that they would be receiving game day. Obviously, other things came into play, and that's not what happened. But like you said, I think it's a good thing. When App State came in for game day a couple years ago, App State won that game in overtime at James Madison. And I do think this, I will agree with Todd on this. Absolutely. Wazoo is dangerous. I don't think you can go in there and just think, oh, they're from that 2-team conference. They don't have the most amazing record. We're going to be able to beat them easily. But I've also heard Coach Bob Chesney, who's in the conversation for a lot of other jobs these days as well. He seems to have the right mindset and to keep these kids focused on it. It doesn't look like this Wazoo team is going to sneak up on them either.
Sam, do you mind if I ask Dominic a quick question? I don't mean to sidetrack the show.
No, go for it.
It's just something that I've thought about, and I tweeted a joke about it. But I wonder if there's any serious thoughts, especially with you saying that you'd heard from multiple people that they were in conversation for game day. Going from game day to ESPN Plus seems like a pretty significant slide. Do you think there is any legitimacy at all to, and I'm not the only person that said this, some of the thoughts that the reason they're ending up on ESPN Plus is because they allowed the game day news to break before ESPN was ready to announce?
I don't think so, because the one post that I saw it come from was a podcast platform. Guys that report on JMU have been kind of banned from the university. So they don't really have any true connection. So I don't think it was kind of like a punishment in that result. It would be interesting if the reason they wanted to put them on ESPN Plus was to hide them from most other national media outlets to pay easier attention to this game and sell the people that the American is better and their teams are on TV. Meanwhile, you're not watching the Sun Belt. So I could see that.
The plot thickens.
Yeah.
We need to bring justice and equality to college football.
Do I need to hit the pop-off button again?
No. I got to tell you guys something, though. I sit here and I feel like I'm just starting kindergarten, and I'm in here with you guys, and you're extolling how easy quantum physics is. You know more crap about players, about different leagues, about who's doing what, could they win, how could they win, what about this could happen, who's got this many yards, what kind of the deal 10 thing that's got. I didn't know there was that much involved in football. I just thought they gave the guy the ball and he run down the damn field. You honestly, I'm in awe of how much knowledge you guys have.
We're sickos. That's why. We're sickos.
So, Todd, let's talk a little North Texas. They're at Rice, home against Temple, and they're basically a blowout loss to USF away from being the clear runner in the G5 for their playoff spot. You think North Texas has a legitimate shot to jump James Madison and Tulane and take over that spot?
Well, I mean, based on what we just said, I don't see how they could get to the American Championship if everything goes scratch, right? If Navy wins, Tulane wins, even North Texas is going to be sitting here at 11-1 with no chance to get into the American Championship game. I personally think after watching these teams, I feel like North Texas is the one team that could cause problems for people just because of their dominant running game. It's just, look, Navy won last week, but I wouldn't say this Navy team is anywhere near as good as it was last year. We still got Horvath went out last week. He didn't finish the game. They still ended up winning. Tulane, I've seen him play twice. Unfortunately, one was against Ole Miss. But then, they did not look good at all against you. What are you doing there, son? Got my music going. I didn't think that Tulane looked good at all against UTSA a couple weeks ago. I mean, they benched Jake Ratzliff, and what did he throw? 5 interceptions, I think, in that football game. So I just think, unfortunately for North Texas, I just don't know how they're going to get to the championship game.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't. They haven't played anybody. They haven't played anybody all season. They have probably the weakest record of anybody on this entire docket. Their only teams that they beat that have meant anything were the other teams within side of their conference. And so, I mean, I don't know. It's kind of like Liberty in 2023 going undefeated, but North Texas isn't undefeated, so they don't have that going for them. And so I don't know.
A small argument about where North Texas is compared to Sunbelt teams, right? They want to say that they would be in over JMU even if, everything else went to scratch, as we said. South Alabama is a team they played earlier this season. They won that game 36-22. South Alabama is currently sitting at 3-7 overall in the year, just 2-4 within the Sunbelt. That was a deep fourth quarter game where South Alabama attempted an onside kick, got a flag for being just offside, which I disagreed with. But anyway, on the ensuing re-kick, North Texas took it all the way past the 50 and then took that 2-touchdown win, essentially. But it took a very deep fourth quarter game for North Texas to put away a bad South Alabama team at North Texas. So when they want to have these arguments about strength of schedule and everything, or better than this other conference, you didn't even face one of the Sun Belt's best teams, and you struggled to, put them away. So there's my argument right there for North Texas to be nowhere close to James Madison, who's taken care easily of the worst teams in the Sun Belt, except for Georgia State, where somehow they had a 14-7 game. But
yeah, there is one more team that has a very minuscule chance at making it, and Jacob probably knows who I'm going with. This team needs to win out, hope for chaos in the American and the Sun Belt. Their remaining games are San Jose State and at New Mexico, and then the Mountain West Conference Championship game if they win out, and that's San Diego State. Jacob, give us your two thoughts. One, as a Mountain West Conference homer, and two, as a realistic football fan. How likely is San Diego State to make it?
How likely is San Diego State to make it? San Diego State specifically, because of their recent loss to Hawaii, I don't think they're likely to make it at all. Now, that doesn't mean the Mountain West couldn't make it, because I think while they don't control their own destiny, if UNLV can find their way to the conference championship game, and they would simply need, at this point, I believe it's Fresno State to lose, I think, and they would be in. Boise State to lose again. If Boise State loses again to Colorado State or Utah State, Colorado State maybe not likely, Utah State potential. If they were to lose again, then you go to the weird ranking systems of how you figure out who ends up when you have this 5-way tie. And I think UNLV, because they have the 8-2 record right now, if they were 10-2 at the end of the year, could end up in the championship game. So I'm going to actually flip the tables a little bit on you. I don't think San Diego State's the team that ends up in it. They have an injured quarterback. They've lost recently. There's no explosive or flash there. Even if they win out, I don't think that there's enough there. UNLV, though, that's a program who has played well throughout the season, has some good wins. I mean, they beat UCLA, obviously. Now, they did lose to Boise State, and they lost to New Mexico. But it's not a terrible New Mexico team, and I think that they could potentially push out, especially with how much the TV networks love the thought of Vegas and the ESPN trying to maybe get them into the playoffs. Maybe they could. However, can the Mountain West get a team into the playoffs? It would have to be a 2023 type situation. Liberty, Conference USA, did not deserve. You got a Liberty. You see a Liberty hat behind me over here. I'm a Liberty fan. I graduated from there. Liberty did not deserve to be in the playoffs that year. Nobody from anybody in the group of 5 at that point deserved to be in the playoffs that season. However, the fact was that of all the undeserving teams, Liberty was undefeated and they got in. So you could have a situation where, let's say, JMU loses a game. Let's say Tulane loses a game. Maybe they lose to, they got left Temple, right? Temple or Charlotte, they lose. And then, North Texas loses a game. And now you have a 3-loss potential American Athletic Conference team. Big Ten, MAC is already out of it. The Conference USA is already out of it. They got all their teams have 4 losses. And now so the MAC, all the teams have 4 losses, and there's nobody undefeated in Conference USA. Now in your situation where you've got a 3-loss team out of the American Athletic Conference, you've got a 2-loss team out of the Sun Belt Conference versus a 2-loss team out of Mountain West, but that Mountain West team is UNLV out of Vegas. Maybe that's how they could get in. Chaos would have to ensure, but right now, nobody from the Mountain West deserves it. If anyone deserves it, it's the Sun Belt or American Athletic Conference this year.
All right.
Well, our comment there, I was just going to make that same point there by Mr. Kenneth Miner there. North Texas did beat Washington State 59-10. So, not to say that you can take what they did in September and then what James Madison's going to do to them or potentially, do to them on Saturday. But there is some kind of leveling stick there. If James Madison only wins this game by 3 points in 21-17 or, something like that, then you could come back and say, well, North Texas blasted this team. But this team also went toe to toe and should have beat Ole Miss. I think anytime you compare teams and where they played a team and then how that, they played this team in September, this team played, Washington State just lost to Oregon State. They lost a Pac-2 championship here to a terrible Oregon State team. So, it's so hard to tell, but, I hate to say it. This goes back to what I said the first week I was on the show, man. I really do think it's not, I don't want to say it's disrespecting the group of 5, but whether we want to take the best team of the group of 5 and put them in the big college football playoff, whatever, but I still think there should be another playoff here for some teams because there's a lot of good football that we're going to miss. Like I would love to see, like I said, maybe we take the top teams and put them in the college football playoff and have a secondary NIT tournament or something. I don't know. I just feel like there's some good teams that are going to be out there that, a bowl game is not enough for us to see them. I'd like to see Navy go through 3 more games and try to win, whatever we call that NIT tournament, like, we didn't see in basketball over the years. But, because truthfully, I'm an Ohio State fan, so obviously I'm rooting for, the top 2 or 3 programs in the country year in and year out. But there's a lot of good football teams out there that aren't going to make this college football playoff that I feel like should still be playing for something, and a meaningless bowl game in Nashville, Tennessee, is not enough. I don't know.
Speaking of bowl games, Kenneth says a bowl game would love to pit North Texas and JMU if they were both left out.
I'd love to see it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that suggestion, Todd. I actually last year made a video on that exact same idea. Now it got very low traction, less than 500 views, so I doubt you saw it. But that was I basically summed that up. I think we should get rid of the bowl season. I think it's meaningless at this point with all the opt-outs and transfers. What was it? A few years ago, LSU played in a bowl game where they were starting their 4th string quarterback. They had 2 players back that had started the entire season that decided to play in that game. So I think the bowl season is absolutely meaningless at this point. If you want players to be engaged and you want fans to be engaged, some kind of NIT, NIL linked tournament, I think would be the way to go. Every year they have, I think it's called the tournament in basketball, where all of these different alumni teams basically play out. And so it's mostly players from Boise State versus mostly players from, Indiana or something like that, and then they play in this tournament and there's an NIL pot at the end of the year. So I think if you had something like that where every single player was guaranteed at each stage of winning in this tournament some level of NIL money, that would be incentive for them to join in. I don't think it can just be a group of 5 tournament because I don't think you'll get any buy-in. I think there has to be the Power Fours teams have to be involved, but the Power Four teams would be going to bowl games anyway. And I think that'd be a great idea. Power Four mix versus a group of 5 mix, the best teams left out versus the middle level of the Power Four, like we see in bowl games anyway, with an NIL incentive. Not everybody would play. Those that are going to the NFL next year would probably still dip, but you'd keep more of your roster than you're keeping now, especially with the transfer portal window moved now to the end of the season after the Bulls. This would be perfect. I think that would be the way to fix it. So I love where your mind's at, Todd. I like that idea.
Nice.
Pop, I believe this one's probably towards you from your rant. Stephen Blameyer says, what do you think should change about the CFP going forward?
Everything.
Thanks, Dad. That's actually my dad commenting on the video. Yeah, I mean, everything is a good point. I like where it's at now, where there's 12 teams. There is a guaranteed way for the group of 5 to get in, or group of 6 now to get in without it being delineated as group of 5. I don't like some of the newer suggestions that make a hard delineation between group of 6 and Power 4, because right now those terms are made up. The group of 6, Power 4, there's nothing in the NCAA. There's nothing in the playoff system that delineates those. The 5th playoff spot is the 5th playoff spot to the top 5th ranked program. You could see a situation where, remember back about 10, 15 years ago, Wisconsin, they had 3 losses and they won the Big Ten. They weren't even ranked and they won the Big Ten and ended up going and playing in their New Year's Six game. And so you could see a situation like that happen where an unranked program from the Power 4 wins their conference. And now you have maybe a Boise State and some team from the Sun Belt, American Athletic Conference, and now both get into the playoffs. So,
well, if Duke would have won, Duke would have won last week, we could have saw it.
That's exactly right.
But they didn't.
So I like the format now where we have expansion teams. Everybody has a shot. I don't like the idea of just building and building and building it out to now where for a large part the regular season seems meaningless. I don't know. I think we're in a good spot right now. I like 12 teams. I like the fact that the group of 5 can always get a program in and could get more than 2 in. I think the ultimate way to fix all of this is some kind of relegation system in college football and promotion system, but it's never going to happen. So for now, I like the CFP as it is.
Pop.
You need to break up the conferences, get rid of the biggies and the littles and shuffle them all in together. Get some equity, get some parity in amongst all of the teams, get rid of the committees, who votes what, who has this, who does whatever. You win your conference, you're in. Now, if the committee wants to hold on to, well, we got to do something, push it to 16 teams. Have 12 conferences. Everybody that wins the conference is in. It doesn't matter what your record is. If you won, you won. If the committee wants to pick 4 more to fill out the 16, they can pick 4 SEC. They can pick 4 Sun Belts. They can pick whoever they want to put in those 4 positions, line them up, let them battle it out, nose to nose on the field. And when it's done, the team that walks off with the trophy is the national champion. No ifs, ands, buts, or maybes.
Stephanie says, hello, my friends. I'm a big fan. Well, thanks for watching, Stephanie.
I don't know I've talked a bunch, but I'm going to say it anyway. One thing I would change about the CFP is I'd get rid of the CFP committee. I'd go back to the BCS rankings, or I would have a BCS rankings with the CFP committee, but the BCS rankings would make up like 50%, and then the CFP would be able to make up for certain circumstances with their own opinions. This idea of human-led bias, it's basically the AP poll with a certain level of more professionalism to it, but at the end of the day, it's just human bias. If we're going to do this 12-team format, go back to the BCS.
I trust you guys to pick somebody over any of these committees. There's too much money. I don't care where you're at, what you're doing. There's too much money. You go out drinking with somebody, your biases put in on you. It doesn't matter who you are, where you're at. You're going to be exposed to that kind of bias when you're up there where all of the money's flowing, where all of the notoriety's flowing, where the fame and fortune is at. There's no way you can have a pure opinion. It's like being a politician. Yeah, the minute you become one, you suck.
And Kenneth Maynor says every conference champion plus 14 at large, seed by rank and strength of schedule, 24-team tournament.
I believe the FCS does a 24 team, so it is doable, but you would probably have to do away with conference championship games, and then
Or
you
go down to a 10 game season.
Yeah, that's a possibility too. For me, what I would change about CFP, I kind of combine a couple of the things we heard. Really, even as a group of 5, group of 6 fan here, right? When they went away from a 4-team playoff, I said, too many teams. We don't need 12 teams. They're not 12 teams that can realistically win a national championship. So if we go back, which we're not going to, but what I would say is I'd go back to 4 teams and have the NIT type tournament for the rest that aren't there. You want to call it a national championship of something else, or just call it, the NIL, whatever we were talking about there as far as naming rights is concerned. Or I would do the other one, which is just include more teams and have a bigger shot. Sure, then let the the top 5, 6 teams, whatever it is, have a bye the first round, and then have these smaller teams that aren't as likely, sorted out before they get to the teams that are probably going to take it. But then at least everybody gets a little bit of a payout. But yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is do away with the committee, do away with preseason rankings for whoever or however you're ranking these teams. Because again, that's what puts different conferences on different pedestals, is because they get all these awarded points for these teams that are ranked high. Look, Penn State's a perfect example. A bunch of teams have high-ranking wins over Penn State, but we know Penn State sucks this year. So they should not be rewarded for high-ranking wins when that end of the season look comes and you say that team really wasn't as good as everybody thought the whole time.
Yeah.
Well, Jack, question for you on all this, having just recently come off of your season of playing actual college football. As we talk about expanding these playoffs potentially, that's more and more and more and more games. Can you talk about the impact of that on a player? Obviously, it means something, but man, that is a lot of pain that you talked about at the beginning of this video, right? You said the pain's going to hurt for now, but not too long. But if you got a playoff coming, now you got almost another season to play at the end of the year. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, the more games you add, the less people get focused, and the less they might not think about the next game, and the easier it is to give up the next game. Expanding it bigger and bigger is not the best idea for these college players. I would say 12 is a really good spot. If you're going to expand it, go to 16 and just get rid of the buys, because on paper the buys are good, but last year we've seen that the buys kind of didn't help anybody. They just kind of hurt them. Not playing for 3-4 weeks or whatever it was really hurts you. So if you're going to expand it at all, 16's the max, no buys. Maybe do the conference championships are the only teams they get to play at home and for the first round, and that would be it. Everyone else is neutral.
Makes sense.
I think that the couple of things that we talked about last week. First, a calendar, right? There's only so many weekends here that we could fit all these games into.
Yeah.
And then you do have, obviously, I mean, like, we'll just use Texas A&M for an example here. So let's say Texas A&M lost to Texas, but still ends up getting in the championship game of the SEC. Then whatever, they end up having to play a first round. This is a team that's going to have to play 17 games to get to a national championship. I mean, that's an NFL schedule here, regular season. So it is going to be challenging to do that and fit all of this in.
Yeah.
All them. Go ahead, Tom.
You'd have to reduce the regular season somehow in there. I mean, you're going to have to give a little to get a little.
Yeah, but the problem is like if you reduce your games, so let's say we go from 10 or from 12 back to 11, right? Which is what we used to play in the older time college football for us older people. We used to have 11 games. But now when you have a 9-game like Big Ten schedule, that means you're only scheduling 2 out-of-conference games. And if you're on the 4-game side of the home season, right? So like you could literally be saying like a team like, whatever, Indiana this year, they could literally only have 5 home games. Well, for Indiana, probably not as big a deal at the end, but for Ohio State or Alabama to lose a home game, you're talking about losing literally millions of dollars in revenue on that lost game because they don't have that, they don't get the ticket sales and they don't have everything that comes along with that. So I'd like to see, I don't want to see less college football. I want to see more college football, honestly, but I just don't see how like
you got to look
teams
at
aren't going to go for it. Like they're just not going to go for losing another home game, because it's just so much money.
You got to look at it too. The people that are making it to that 17 game season are probably the ones playing at the next level anyway. So it's not a whole lot different from what they're about to go experience anyway. So if you look at it like that.
Well, I don't disagree with that.
To Todd's point about losing games for the big schools, it also tremendously hurts the small schools who get paid lots of money to play these big schools and essentially take the loss. The FCS schools, the bottom of the G5, like those teams need those big games. I mean, ULM is the poorest team in 1A football, FCS or FBS football. They make the least amount of money. They spend the least amount of money. They'll schedule Alabama and Texas in the same year, which they just did last year, and take those beatings gladly because it pays for their whole athletic program besides football. So you're really hurting everybody when, Todd's talking about the big schools getting hurt, and they will, but they're hurting tremendously the bottom schools who really need that revenue from that one or two games a season. It is that big of a deal to those guys.
Yeah, but even here, we're talking about putting a Band-Aid on where we need a tourniquet. What we need is revolution.
Real quick before we go into a break, Kenneth says you could have a CFP and an FBS playoff, 2 distinct playoffs, which that could be a legitimate solution too moving forward. Jacob, I know you're only here for us half a show. We appreciate you joining in and gracing us with your presence. You brought a lot to the round.
Excuse me. You're leaving, Jacob? Is it because you're important?
No, not at all. No, but I do have to get up around 5 or 6 a.m. So I need to make sure I get to bed as soon as I can.
I get up at 4 every morning, Jacob. But if you're leaving, I'm leaving. Go ahead, finish your job.
He's just trying to get home or get on to watch this Hawaii UNLV game.
That's exactly right. You caught me. Well, hey guys, it's been awesome. Thanks for having me on. This was a really fun conversation. I loved seeing the different perspectives. Obviously, Boise State, and then I've already seen your show, Dominic. I told you that before. But hey, it's great to have a conversation with some Big Ten fans too that actually care about the rest of college football and as well, not just the P4. So love the perspective and thought process all around. Not going to say good luck versus Michigan, but everything else help the rest of the season goes well for everybody's teams. Thanks so much for having me on, and as always, go Big Blue!
All right.
Good to have you.
Pop's going to bow out too. Pop, any last thoughts you want to?
Go Big Blue!
All right. Anybody else? Jack, you want to throw in a Go Big Red in there somewhere?
No.
We're going to stay quiet and let
we say Go Blue in Columbus, but it's Go Blue Jackets. It's hockey. Not
All right. Well, we're going to take a quick break. If you want to advertise with us during our breaks, my email's across the screen during the break. Go ahead, shoot me an email. We'll get you set up with that. Jacob, Pop, thank you for joining us, and we will see you, the rest of you, back after the break.
All right.
right. Welcome back to College Football Roundtable, folks. We lost a couple, but we still have Jack, Todd, and Dominic with us, and I'm Sam, your host. Pop is decided to go get Whataburger. So if you don't know what that is, you're missing out. So, fellas, let's jump into our fourth segment. We got a lot of conference races that are heating up. We kind of briefly touched on the AAC earlier, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but you've got Navy, who can clinch with a win over Memphis. And you have Tulane, North Texas, and ECU. They're right there. North Texas and ECU probably the two most likely not to make it. And then, of course, USF mathematically still in the hunt, but with their loss last week, not likely to make it. Do you guys like Navy as a lock for the CFP? Or not
Navy?
The AAC.
I mean, I like them, but I don't know that they're going to get there.
Yeah.
I mean, they just got too many. The injury bug with Blake Horvath is a problem. You know, we'll see how he goes this week. Well, not this weekend, but they play Thursday night, Thanksgiving night. I don't know. I don't know if they're a lock.
All right. If they do happen to lose to Memphis, that opens the door, obviously, for Tulane to take that number one spot, and then you have North Texas and ECU right there behind them. Dom, who do you think takes that second spot? Should Navy fall, who takes that second spot, North Texas or ECU?
The way it lays out, I think, man, I think ECU wins out, okay, because I don't think they have much competition. This Temple team isn't great defensively, but they do seem to score a good amount of points. Can they upset UNT? I wouldn't put money on it, but if I'm got to pick one that could have a slip up, it's North Texas, especially if the pressure's on and they know all we got to do is win this game and we get what we want, at least to some extent. You know, Temple's not going to have that on their shoulders, so they're going to be able to play a little bit freer. Maybe them. Yeah, I want to ask Todd a question though, because he said, you know, going forward, it's probably unlikely you see Navy and Army in these types of games or situations much longer. But I want his real perspective on this, because I actually said last season to my usual co-host who played college football as well, in TJ Corman, I think Army and Navy may be best set up for this NIL and portal era, not because they're going to have the most talent, don't get me wrong, but because they don't have to deal with it very much, right? Like, these kids aren't leaving and going as much. They're staying there. Their chemistry and the camaraderie is going to be stronger. They play in an offensive set that is hard to prepare for defensively for a lot of these teams because they don't see it very much. So I'm wondering if Army and Navy could become more mainstays because of the difference of play that they have versus the vast majority of the rest of college football.
Yeah, I mean, that could be true. I mean, the one thing that's like we said earlier, Navy and Army aren't getting rated. Like, no one's going after those. Right. I wouldn't say no one. There are kids. I just saw a kid. I don't remember which game I was watching this week, but he was a kid that started at Army and then ended up on it was a group of 5 team, because it was during the week here. Maybe it was at the MAC level. I'm not remember which school he played for, but you're right. You're not going to get transfers out of that very often. So you're not going to get your team picked apart. You know, because I think, look, you know, like James Madison last year when Signetti left, and then he took, you know, a good portion of that team. I don't know what portion of the team was there, but I'm assuming he took the best players. You know what I mean? Because he didn't take his third team with him. He took as many of the top kids he could. So yeah, I guess that's a possibility. But they also don't pay, like,
right.
You know, I don't know what a kid going to Appalachian State is making, you know, in terms of, is it enough money to get somebody, to convince somebody that wants to go to Army or Navy? Because a lot of the kids going to Army or Navy, they want to go to Army or Navy, you know, like,
right.
Blake Horvath here from Hilliard, Ohio, quarterback, he wants to be a fighter pilot. Like that's what his job, that's what he wants to do. He wants to fly, whatever F-22 Raptors or whatever they are nowadays, right? Well, you can't go to, James Madison and be a fighter pilot. You could, I guess. You could go to James Madison, then join the Navy, but,
Right.
you might as well just go to Navy to do it, So it'll be interesting to see. I just think that there's going to be too many other good G5 schools with too many good players that they'll be ahead of Army and Navy on a normal year. I mean, this season, like the Mountain West, I mean, what we have UNLV here at 8-2, Boise at 7-3, Army. I mean, I feel like this is a kind of a down year for the Mountain West in terms of like the top tier being, I think generally we'll only have one team that has 0 or 1 losses coming out of this conference. Generally, we'll see how it breaks out when they join the Pac-12 next year. Well, I mean, what's there 6 teams going to the Pac-12?
Yeah.
From the Mountain West, is that right? 6.
Yep.
Just happens to be the best.
There's five from the Mountain West and then 1 from the Sun Belt.
Okay, so and that's going to put that conference at 8 teams then?
Yeah, 8 football teams, and I believe Gonzaga's over
for basketball. Yeah. So how many more are they going to pick off over the next couple of years? Like, who's going to fill out the rest of that conference?
Right.
So I don't know. I honestly, personally think if they get the conference to 8 and they can show some competitiveness, I wouldn't be surprised if Stanford and Cal ended up moving back because they don't have the greatest money deal in the ACC, and the cost of travel for this right now is just killing Stanford and Cal.
Especially since they're not that great.
Well, they're not that great. They don't have a really consistent fan base. You can watch any of their games. Now, this week it'll be packed because it's the game, the big game there between Cal and Stanford. So, but I just don't know how long they're going to be able to travel their softball team to the East Coast 6, 7, 8 times, or 8, 10 weeks, or however many weeks it is. So I wouldn't be surprised if potentially. For Stanford and Cal, though, it's the academic thing. But I mean, you're in the ACC. You have Duke. You have, North Carolina. You have some good academic schools there. But it's not, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how this all shakes out in the next couple of years. Yeah. I kind of like maybe revisiting and going back myself to some more traditional conferences, bringing back the Big East. Bringing back the traditional Pac-12, and breaking up some of these teams back into taking West Virginia out of the Big 12 and putting them back in the Big East. Yeah. Maybe pulling Pittsburgh back out of the ACC and putting them, something that gives us a more traditional area of scope of, games. What I grew up watching, was the Big East and the Pac-12, and back then it was the Pac-10. So it'll be interesting to see. But there's so much money involved that I don't see Oregon or Washington leaving or USC leaving the Big Ten. But we'll see how this all shakes out. But there's just there's just so much going on here that at some point something's got to break, right? There's only so much money here. I was talking to my buddy the other day, and we're talking about Ole Miss, and I'm like, look, Ole Miss has had a good streak here of 3 years, right? But how honestly, how sustainable is it for Ole Miss to keep spending this type of money with their alumni base and they're in a state with 2 teams, like Boise is in a state with basically 1 football team, right? And right. Boise is Idaho. Ohio State has Cincinnati, but it's not like having, it's not like having Ole Miss and Mississippi State in the same state that are, demanding, both a lot of money to run these programs. So we'll find out. But I just think the travel, especially in the not the main revenue sports, is going to really start hurting some of these schools. I mean, You're traveling. It's just not your softball team, your field hockey team, your whatever pistol team, whatever your teams are that you have. It's a lot of expense.
Yeah. And Dom, to counter your point of Army, Navy, and the service schools being consistent, Clemson had the highest continuity rating coming into the season. Many people had them top 5 to start the season, and we see how that worked out for them. And then, Todd, to your point with Cal and Stanford in the ACC, you don't see them in the ACC hunt. You don't see any of the schools out west really getting anything going. SMU, the lone team out there in the Dallas area is the farthest west the ACC has some kind of power. But you got Georgia Tech, who can clinch with their win over Pitt this week. They'll clinch their ACC spot. Then you have Virginia at 6-1, Pitt and SMU at 5-1, and then Miami and Duke, who aren't technically out of it yet, at 4-2. Duke with the least likely chance to make it after their loss last week. Do you see Virginia taking that second spot in the ACC?
That's
Todd,
me.
sorry. No, it was Todd. You're next.
I'm sorry. I thought you said Dom too. It feels like it right now. It'll be interesting to see this Georgia Tech and Pittsburgh game on Saturday. How this is going to shake out. I mean, man, I've been riding with Georgia Tech. I really feel like Haynes King is just, one of the most fun players in college football to watch. His toughness, his heart. But, man, they're really playing with fire.
Yeah.
They really should have lost that game last week to Boston College. They should have lost that game earlier in the season to Wake Forest.
Haynes King doesn't quit.
No, he doesn't quit, and that's one reason why I really feel like he's gonna. I really feel like he's gonna be able to pull. I don't know how he's gonna beat Georgia this year because they don't have a defense that can, stack up against Georgia's offense. But I just feel like Haynes King is just one of these guys. Like, he fumbled the ball away for a win last year, and I don't think he's gonna do that this year. But back to what we're talking about in terms of that, I feel like Virginia is just a team of destiny right now. I mean, they've had a lot of, they got to the point where they're at. So I think Virginia's definitely going to be in there. And then the question is going to be, can Georgia Tech slow down Pitt's passing attack, which we did not see last week against Notre Dame show up very well, but Notre Dame's a different animal defensively. And I honestly thought that Pitt kind of blew their chances last week with that first possession and that first fourth down that they went for. I felt like they should have punted that situation, played some defense. Notre Dame ended up getting a sack, getting the ball, and boom, boom, touchdown. And it kind of felt like they lost the game right there. So I think it's going to be a great game. If Pittsburgh wins, Pittsburgh beats Miami, they're in, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's say, Dominic, Pitt upsets Georgia Tech, gives them their second loss. Then they go and they beat Miami. They're in. Georgia Tech's out. Virginia wins out. And now Georgia Tech's left out of the ACC after being ranked so highly and being right there, right up to the end of the season. Is Georgia Tech completely out if they don't make the ACC championship game?
For me, yes. And one of the things that I think that they do correctly when it comes to March Madness that hopefully they carry with the CFP is, like, we're not going to put in a team that's on a downward trend at the end of the year. We want to put in the teams that are the best right now that still have a strong resume overall. So to me, yeah, I'm not taking Georgia Tech. I actually think we're going to end up seeing Virginia versus SMU for the championship in the ACC. I think that's what I would think is most likely to happen, at least from where I'm standing. Like Todd alluded to with Georgia Tech, like record-wise right now, they look the part, but they have been playing some scary games, and I'm just not trusting them to get it done when it's needed to be. Otherwise, if they would have shown me that against Georgia last year, I would have felt a little stronger on that. But I don't know. I just don't know if they'll get that one done. And if they're thinking ahead to that game at all this week, that's not going to bode well.
What if they miss the ACC championship game but beat Georgia?
Ooh, that means they would have lost to Pitt.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which
it was thought of decently before the Notre Dame loss, and the Notre Dame treated them like a JV team. So
yeah,
it would be enough to get in. I think though.
I tell you what, I think there's this sneaky little thing here. If we go back to Dom's thing, let's say SMU gets in to the championship game of the ACC. And let's say they win it, okay? And then let's go ahead and predict out that James Madison wins out and wins the conference championship. Let's say it comes down to whatever we want to say. Let's say it's Navy and North Texas for this scenario right here, right? And let's say North Texas ends up beating Navy again, and they're 12-1 at that point too, right? And then you have this 3-loss SMU team win the ACC, and then you still have Miami sitting there with 2 losses. Let's just say Miami wins out, but they can't get to the championship game. Is there a scenario where they put in James Madison and North Texas, and they hold SMU out, but stick Miami as a bid, not a championship team, but just gets the bid. So the ACC still gets a team in, but not the champion. And Miami gets in, and then we get 2 group of 5. I think there could be a scenario where something like that occurs if a 3-loss team wins the ACC.
There would be so much uproar by the ACC if that was to happen.
But the ACC still gets their team in.
True. Right, but or uproar by whoever wins the ACC at that point.
Well,
right.
But they're a 3-loss team.
I think they are a 3-loss team, and their losses are to Baylor, TCU, and Wake Forest. So none of them are really great quality losses, right? Like you're not losing any highly ranked teams. But I haven't thought of that or seen that anywhere, Todd. I would love the hell out of that because the ACC people would be pissed. Again, our champion didn't get in, but somebody else did. The regular college football fans everywhere are going to go, how did you let this happen? They're going to be mad as hell. It's going to cause more discussion and hopefully something to be done about it faster if that type of scenario plays out, because no one's going to be really happy with it other than the teams that made it in. Right. But I would love it because the chaos would start to ensue. The revolution would begin at that point, I think.
Well, I think if you go back and you look at the Miami SMU game and you look at the way that game actually transpired, I mean, look, Miami should have won that football game.
Yep.
It was a terrible call, in my opinion, on the roughing the passer call, because I don't think the guy – first of all, I don't think he heard the whistle. I think when he did realize it, he did hold up. He didn't crush the quarterback by any means. He tried to hold up, the best you can when you're, that big and fast and running full speed. And I think they gave SMU a chance to go and get back in that game, which in all intents and purposes, what was that? A 4th and like 18 or something like that they were on, and they end up getting that penalty, which gives them the automatic first down. Like, yes, Miami lost that game, but man, it sure didn't feel like SMU was the better team. They got the better chance to get back in it, but I didn't think they were the better team in that game. So I don't know. It would be a fun scenario, though, man. It would get 2 group of 5 teams in, and the committee wouldn't have to worry about this Notre Dame Miami, because I still think it boils down to, if Notre Dame wins out and Miami wins out, you still got this problem of this Miami versus Notre Dame. We all watched the game. Miami won it. So I don't know. I'd love to see something. That would be bonkers. That would be crazy bonkers for that to happen. And if it did, folks, you heard it here, right here on Sam Talks Sports.
The Big 12 seems to be the easiest, straightforward for the championship. Maybe the Big 10, but Big 12, Texas Tech, they can actually clinch this week if Arizona State and any combination. No, not any combination. If Arizona State and Cincy or Houston or Utah lose this week, or if BYU and Utah both lose this week, then Texas Tech clinches without having to play. Otherwise, they win next week and they're in. BYU's at 6-1. All they need to do is win out and they're in. And then you got Utah, Houston, and Arizona State and Cincinnati are at 5-2. So they're hoping that BYU stumbles so that one of them get a chance. We won't spend too much time on that one because that one's pretty cut and dry. Big 10 pretty cut and dry as well. You got Indiana's 8-0. They clinch with a win over Purdue, or a USC win over Oregon and a Maryland win over Michigan this week. They'll clinch then. And then Ohio State at 7-0. They win and they're in basically. You got USC, Oregon, and Michigan at 6-1, just hoping for Ohio State to stumble or Indiana to stumble, but not likely for either one of those two. The SEC, there's actually a chance where the current number 4 seed misses the SEC championship game. Georgia at 7-1, because they don't have another SEC game. They will miss the championship game if Alabama, A&M, and Mississippi State all win next week. Or this week, I guess. Or no, next week.
Next week.
Yeah. This week's Cupcake Week. So Georgia loses out on the championship game if Alabama, A&M, and Mississippi State all win next week. So, and Mississippi State over Ole Miss, the Lane Kiffin saga, is that getting in their heads? That's not a done deal win, especially with that kind of rivalry. Do you think, Jack, let's go. You ain't heard from you for a little bit. Do you think Georgia could miss the SEC championship game? And if so, do they get to keep their top 4 spot?
I don't think they're going to keep their top 4 spot because I think Georgia Tech's going to beat them. But to go back to the SEC championship game, I think they're going to. I think they're going to be in the game.
You think Georgia's going to be in?
Yeah.
There's a lot to be said for. Listen, man. Alabama's got. Look, Auburn's not a great football team offensively at all. They definitely have gotten better in the last couple weeks. We'll see how they do against Mercer, man. There's no guarantee that Auburn could beat Mercer this weekend.
Right. Yeah.
But Auburn's defense is extremely tricky to play against. And we saw how Oklahoma was able to, pressure Ty Simpson and force him into bad throws. And I think Auburn can do a very similar thing. And, it's a nightmare down there at Jordan-Hare for Auburn, for Alabama sometimes. And Alabama's kicking game, which leads me back to why South Carolina shouldn't have let Alabama score in that game. They should have forced Alabama to make a kick because there's a very dang good chance Alabama would have missed that kick in that game.
Yeah.
Even though they were at the 15-yard line when they let him score, it's still a 30-yarder. There's no guarantee they would have made that thing the way this kid's kicking. But I think, the way it looks now, I think it's Texas A&M. And, I feel like Alabama's going to win against Auburn, but it's no guarantee. So I think it's probably going to be an Alabama versus Texas A&M SEC championship game. And then at that point, if Alabama loses that game, do they keep a 3-loss team in, even though they lost the conference? Then it starts to really break down. And another thing, we didn't really talk about is how do you guys like the way that they pod these teams out? You know, I heard them talking the other day, like they don't even have Notre Dame and Miami in the same conversation when they're talking about it because they're doing these 4-team pod. And I think that is kind of, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of that. What do you guys think of that?
Yeah, I don't like the pod thing at all.
No.
I'm with you. Like put them all in a straight line and do it the best you can. And if you have to break up like a conversation where 3 or 4 teams are close, then do that. But then go back in and compare them to the other teams as well, because they may be close in a couple regards, but then, you know, this team that you haven't put into that pod is also, you know, close by in other regards. And now you include that too, you know, like it doesn't make much sense to me.
Yeah, just do it like you do the NCAA tournament. You go in, you have everybody outside of each other. No one knows who's voting for who, and then you point system them out, and then you all get your deal set up where this is how the rankings are set, and then you go line by line, and you say, Team A and Team B, can Team B beat Team A? No. Okay, Team B and Team C, can Team C beat B? Yes. Okay, move it up. Now you got to go back up to Team A. Can A and C win? And all right. And then you just sit there and you bring it all the way down until you have your, let's say, top 16, so that you've got your leftovers in essence to go by. So just do it like that. Then you're looking at everybody in the whole picture, and you're looking at, okay, can this team beat the next team up? If it's viable that the team below can beat the next team up, then you move them up. You rank them based on the points, and then you figure out each person has their vote on who can move up or down based on where they are in the rankings, and do it like that. Makes it easy. Don't pot them out because different teams play different teams differently. I mean, Boise State curb stomped UNLV and then got curb stomped by Fresno State. Fresno State lost to Colorado State, who Boise State's likely going to beat.
Yeah, listen, when you're talking about 18 to 22-year-old kids like sitting next to me, you never know what you're going to get from week to week, which makes it so, so incredibly fun because, you just don't know what these kids are thinking, what have transpired on campus, their classes, whatever, could all this stuff culminates into a bad Saturday. And, a bumpy air flight, a late getting into the hotel. There's all kinds of things that can cause teams to not play their best on any given Saturday.
Yeah. Well, let's move on. Yep, go for it.
What were you going to say, Scott? Jack?
My coach used to always say that you never know what happened that week. Their girlfriend may have broke up with them. The professor may have given them a bad grade on a thing. They might have a C- in a class, and they need to have a C- to, pass and graduate. And they got this big assignment they've been working all week. They didn't watch any film. Anything can happen with any individual player any day of the week.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Well, let's move on. Take a look at a couple brackets, some predictions, and the games of the week. Todd, you're up first. There we go. Nope, I like the other one better.
And this is it's just getting so difficult to try to come up with what you're, I'm sitting there like, what could happen? Like like, I don't feel like Ole Miss is going to fall further down than 6. I haven't seen the bracket up on there yet, but it doesn't feel like they're going to fall further down than 6. But then, if it's Georgia and Texas A&M in the championship game, and Georgia loses that game, then you got to feel like they'd fall below Ole Miss, but they still beat Ole Miss. So it really gets challenging here as we get, because now we're starting to look at like a 2. Oh, there we go. So, I had Ohio State, Indiana, Texas A&M, and Texas Tech as my top 4. And then, I lost the video on my bracket. Oh, there we go. And then, I dropped Georgia down to 8. I just feel like there's some kind of miracle going to happen here with Haynes King. I just feel like it's destiny. I dropped Alabama all the way to 11th, the last team in, just because, like, at some point here, like there's going to be too many 2-loss teams potentially.
Yeah.
In Oklahoma, like there's a very good chance. You just got the news today that what's his name? Bo Pravola is going to play on Saturday. You got Oklahoma coming off of one of their biggest wins in the last couple of years on the road at Alabama. You feel like Oklahoma is going to have a letdown game a little bit, just because, that's how college football works. When you win a big game on the road, you generally come back the next week. We don't know what Bo's going to look like when he comes back. He may be effective. He may be John Mateer-ish like he was when they played Texas. Missouri's strength is running the football, and Oklahoma's strength is stopping the run. So that's bad, but I don't know. I just feel like Oklahoma has a really good chance to lose this weekend, especially with this, quarterback coming back. So a crapshoot here. And again, I got 2 ACC teams in there. I don't feel like there's 2 ACC teams that are going to be in the college football playoff at the end of the year, even though I feel like right now there's a chance there could be, but I don't think there's going to end up being 2.
All right. My bracket is based on the my Prove It Top 25, and my Prove It Top 25 takes in a bunch of different playing metrics to where it's decided on the field whether you're playing against each other or not. I'm not going to divulge my formula because then everybody will copy it because it's awesome. I've been back and forth with a few fans this last week over my brackets, but I've got Indiana, and I think Todd, you said earlier, or it might have been Dom or Jacob said that you're not going to get 3 Big Ten teams in the CFP. I say nay. Indiana, Ohio State, and Oregon.
I think he was saying you're not going to get 3 in the top 4 is what I think he was saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you do have that.
Yeah. So it could happen, especially if Oregon wins out. And then you have Indiana and Ohio State play really close in the championship game. You may have one of them drop to 3, and then maybe Texas Tech gets the 2 spot if they win theirs. But I got Texas Tech at number 4. And then James Madison. I've given that Sunbelt love. James Madison, the metrics, the on-field metrics, have James Madison edging out everybody else. You do have North Texas in my down there at number 23 as well. So they put a lot of offense on the field for North Texas. Yeah, they have that bad loss to USF, but I mean that every other game they played has been pretty dang good. And you look at that USF game, they fell apart in the third quarter, early on in the third quarter, and that they're literally a third quarter away from being undefeated right now. So North Texas is right there looking to take that spot in my bracket. Georgia at number 5, I think they miss out on the SEC championship game, and that helps them because now they sit there at number 5 without having to play that other game. Alabama against Utah. A lot of people saying, why is Utah up that high? And I say, why aren't they? They've got a pretty good defense, pretty good offense. They're one of those that they could be undefeated if just a few different things went the other way in their games. And I got Georgia Tech at number 11. I'm not real high on the ACC strength of schedule. I think Georgia Tech could be as high as number 5. I'm not putting that past them, but I've got them ranked 25 just because they've had a bunch of close wins that should have been blowout wins that have really hurt their on-field metrics. Georgia Tech and A&M would be one heck of a game, and I'd pay good money to see that one. And I might actually go see that one if that were to happen because it's right down the road. And then BYU sneaking in.
Thing, right? Could that be a Haynes King rematch?
Yeah, exactly. Haynes King started out in A&M, so there'd be a lot of East Texas people probably taking a look at that one. And then BYU sneaking in at number 10 against Notre Dame at number 7. So little different from what the norm seems to be. And Todd, let's take a look at how our top 25s match up against.
If your bracket hits, Sam, Paul Feinbaum's head's going to explode because that means there's only 3 SEC teams in there, which would be.
And I have a theory on that. The only reason the SEC gets so much love by the media, one, the media loves the SEC because that's ESPN is basically the SEC's words I can't say on air, but the SEC is only getting that love because everybody thinks the SEC is so deep. You take anybody outside of the top maybe 5 schools in the SEC, and they're not ranked in any other conference that they play in. And it's evident the SEC, when was the last time they won a national championship? It's because whenever they start playing teams outside their conference, they start faltering. Just my opinion. But let's take a look at what our top 25s look at, Todd, compared to the current CFP. I think you probably have the closest. In fact, your top 5s are right on. I've got Texas Tech and Georgia flipped, and of course I've got Oregon up there instead of A&M. A&M's close win to South Carolina, game they should have lost. Dropped them out of the top 5 for me. Let's see. Let's go, Jack. What do you think? Who's got the more accurate top 25 based on gameplay this year? Does the CFP have it nailed right on? Does your dad, or does the guy that invited you on this show and given you a platform to talk?
Well, I'd like my father's a little bit more than yours. I don't think the Utah Utes are inside the top 10. I would say they're probably 11 or 12. I think Ole Miss is a little better than 11. Not much.
And you're really hammering Oklahoma.
I know.
Yeah.
I don't like how where the heck Georgia Tech go.
Georgia Tech.
See him on yours very well. Oh,
25?
25?
Yeah.
No, I think
it's because of their losses to teams that should have been blowouts.
Yeah.
Their wins to teams that should have been blowouts.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I think they're going to beat Georgia. I think,
Yeah, that'll
King's
help
going to make that game a shootout, and he's going to have a couple rushing touchdowns. I would say I would like a mix of his in college footballs, but I like where you have like Alabama and BYU. I think Ole Miss a little better. I don't like where you have Georgia Tech. I think Michigan's outside the top 25, but that's not because of their play. And
partly because of their play.
Well, mostly because they're just them. But I would say a mix is his is college footballs, and I would say there's a couple parts I would take out of yours, and a couple parts I would move around.
Yep. Dom, what do you think?
Just looking at one that's kind of across the board as far as everybody agrees here, which is Tennessee, which is either 2021 or where are they on this last one?
23.
23. So they're all right in that same element. They have 3 losses, and they're good losses. They're all ranked losses, but where are their wins? Who the hell did they beat? I mean, I'm looking
Well,
at
they
their
haven't beat
schedule right now.
anybody.
Syracuse, ETSU, UAB, Mississippi State, Arkansas, Kentucky, and New Mexico State. So, yeah, I just think they're overvalued by all three of you here. And it's weird because, you know, that their quarterback now played for my favorite team before, and I really like that kid. I hope he does really well. He just, I think today came out and he's joining the suit against the NCAA for a JUCO year to not count against him so he can come back again next season. So it's nothing against him, but just as a whole, I just think Tennessee is overvalued. You talked about it, Sam, with the SEC aspect. That's one I think you just completely eliminate. All three should just not include Tennessee at all right now. I think there's better teams. I'd like the Todds with the JMU and Tulane. As much as I've been crapping on Tulane to have JMU elevated, I do think both teams could be in the top 25. I think the CFP could have eliminated Arizona State out of theirs to include JMU right behind Tulane and give everyone a very clear picture about how close those two teams may be when it comes down to the end of the season. And it would also create a little bit more excitement. I mean, Arizona State at 25, their likelihood of moving up any higher is pretty slim to me. So I'm not sure why you're including a team that probably doesn't have a shot. I mean, you guys, neither one of you guys have Arizona State in there. So I like the fact that you've done the right thing there. Or wait, Sam, is that when it says Arizona, you really have Arizona State at 24?
No, it's Arizona.
Oh, you have Arizona. Okay. I just didn't know if you ran out of room and I couldn't see.
No.
Man, if I had to pick one, and it is tough because I like different aspects of different polls there. Sam, you run the show and you have JMU higher. I'm going to go with Sam.
Yes.
Hey, I have 3 group of 5 teams in there. I got North Texas, JMA, and Tulane in there.
Oh, you do have North Texas. Yeah, you do. Wow.
Yeah.
But I have the Sun Belt ranked higher, so I win.
There you go. Well,
This is
it's all going to take care of itself in some ways here.
True.
I mean, because we're going to see. Listen, I agree with you on Tennessee. I struggled with Texas, Tennessee, and Illinois.
Yeah.
You know, because I personally think, look, a lot of people are not giving Illinois any credit here, and a lot of it's because that 53-point loss to Indiana, which was just a steamroll. Because I mean, everything just went. It just it's one of those football games where it just starts to roll on you, and then it just collapses, right? And that's what happened there. But if you look at the 3 losses that Illinois has, I mean, they got lost to Ohio State, to Illinois, or to Indiana, and and they have a very tough road game at Washington, and Washington's a tough team, especially in Washington. And this could be a scenario here where Oregon could beat USC this week and very easily lose that game next week at Washington.
Yeah.
And if that happens, then you got to start thinking the Big Ten might not get 3 teams in.
Yeah. And here's we got up here now. We've got the Week 13 CFP playoff bracket with their top 25. This is current. If the season ended today, this is what we would have for the playoffs. You'd have Ohio State 1, Indiana 2, Texas A&M 3, and Georgia 4. And then you'd have Tulane playing Texas Tech, which that could be a good game on paper, but I think Texas Tech would run away with that one. Notre Dame OU, that would be a fun game to watch. I might make the trip up to Norman to try and catch that one. Georgia Tech and Ole Miss, that would, especially if Lane Kiffin puts to bed all the rumors and everything and says, no, I'm staying in Ole Miss, which I don't think he is, to be honest. I think he had his family out scouting for the best spot. But you have Georgia Tech, Ole Miss, that could be a fun one regardless if Ole Miss actually makes it. And then Alabama and Oregon, that right there is probably be the matchup of the opening round if it was played today.
Well, especially at Oregon.
the
Yeah.
CFP rankings here. We just had Todd have a good conversation about Illinois. Right there is the point where they're doing different things with different teams, and maybe that's part of the pod process, and that's why they've got it the way they do. But you're going to sit there and rank Tennessee above Illinois when Illinois has a ranked victory over number 21 USC, who's now up to 15. But you've got Tennessee above Illinois, and Tennessee doesn't have any ranked wins. So, like, how are you saying you value victories and that means more, and then you have a team that has a ranked win that's looking even better as the season goes on? And as Todd alluded to, Illinois' losses are not bad. You lost to Indiana, and Washington's the worst of the bunch. But Washington's still up there towards the top of the Big Ten, and now you've got a team below them in the rankings for who knows what reason they're using. But it's just those are things where you make the argument about the group of five being about wins, quality wins, and all this stuff, and then right there you see that they're not even following their own metric elsewhere in this playoff bracket, and that's what's the frustrating things for fans to see and understand when we don't get to see the background of how and why everything was decided.
Yeah. Todd, I see you fervently over there looking something up.
I was trying to figure out, who did Missouri lose to again? Did they lose to – they lost to Alabama. Did they lose to Vanderbilt?
I think they did.
I think they did lose to Vanderbilt. I'm trying to figure out who their third loss was to.
Vanderbilt, A&M, and Alabama.
Okay, Vanderbilt, A&M, and Alabama, yeah. Okay. I was trying to see who was better there between Tennessee and Missouri. I feel like both teams are almost equal.
I guess we'll find out.
And they got it right, 2 spots ahead.
Did Tennessee play Vanderbilt already? Or they play them next week.
Tennessee plays Vanderbilt next week.
Yeah,
next week. Yep.
I thought.
Boy,
so, yeah.
I tell you, I mean, we're not talking about Tennessee in this show, but man, what a complete disaster this could be for Tennessee. They haven't won in the Swamp since 2003, so they got to go there on Saturday. I mean, they very well could lose that game. The Florida Gator defense is really good. They can slut. I mean, the Florida Gator defense, if they had an actual offense that could play with them, might be the best defense in the country.
Yeah.
The problem is they got to be on the field all the time,
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like my Cleveland Browns. But back to what I was saying there was, like, if Florida beats Tennessee and Vanderbilt beats Tennessee and Tennessee goes 7-5, is Heupel safe?
Not in Tennessee.
Not. Or does he take a job maybe somewhere else and as a surprise, does he sneak to Arkansas or something like that, with a school with a little less pressure and not as many well, we'll see when the SEC schedule changes. I can't remember who Tennessee's 3 teams are, but I know one's Alabama, and I know one is it Florida and Kentucky, I think, are their 3. So they got sense. I think it's Florida, Tennessee, Florida, Alabama, and Kentucky. So I don't know, man. It'll be interesting to see what happens in Tennessee, because there's a very good chance they could lose these next 2 games.
Yeah,
and that would be interesting with what could happen with Josh Heupel there.
No doubt.
Yeah, maybe we'll get together after conference championship week, do one of these, and go over coaching carousel on one of these segments, and try and pinpoint where each coach is going to go. And see who the vacancies have already been filled at. So look forward to that in future episodes.
Now we got James Franklin all settled in there. He's ready to do.
Speaking of James Franklin, let's move on into some games of the week, shall we?
Mm-hmm.
So number 13, Miami at Virginia Tech. This is a must-win game for Miami. If they lose, they're eliminated, and Virginia Tech has that new energy with their announcement of James Franklin. I don't know about you, but I watched him come in to Enter Sandman for his presser, and I got chills and was ready to take the field. So if I got chills and was ready to take the field, that team's probably getting jacked and probably wanting to say, you know what, let's go out and win one, show our new coach what we're capable of so that we're not cut and sent out on our way. You guys kind of share that same sentiment? Does Virginia Tech have a chance to upset Miami with James Franklin? Obviously, he's not going to be coaching the game, but he's obviously going to be paying attention to it.
I'm going to put that as a no.
Yeah, I'll agree. I don't see it with Miami. If it was a lesser team than Miami, an unranked team, Virginia Tech, a little pump up, maybe, but I don't think a Miami team that's got everything still left to play for in front of them is going to be beat at VT.
Yeah. Number 22, Mizzou at number 8, OU. This is probably going to be the morning game of the day. OU is all but eliminated with a loss. They can still get that at-large berth. I don't think they can make the SEC championship game. I'm fairly certain, but if they lose to Missouri, they won't be in the CFP. So that's a big game for OU. And I'm going to kind of just run through these. You guys just say, hey, shut up. I want to talk about this one if you want to chime in.
Okay, I'll stop you already. No, but just real quick, shout out to Ahmad Hardy, Mizzou running back, the leading rusher in NCAA, came from little old ULM in the Sun Belt last year. So there is talent at the Sun Belt level because the best running back in all of college football this year previously resided down here in the little old Sun Belt.
Dom,
Anyway,
Dom,
quick shout out to him.
Dom, hey, don't tell the bigger schools about our Power 4 talent in these weaker conferences, okay?
All right. Louisville at SMU. SMU's eliminated with their loss, so it's a big game for them. Washington State at James Madison. James Madison will be eliminated from CFP with a loss, possibly. They could still win their conference championship game and hope for chaos in the AAC. You want to touch on that one too, Dominic, since that's your Sun Belt boys?
Yeah, I'll absolutely agree. It doesn't matter who they lose to. If JMU loses even the conference championship game, they're out. They have no shot. There is no chance. They have to win every single game left and obviously have some help there with the American. But, they can't afford to lose to anybody.
Yeah. Number 15, USC at number 7, Oregon. This one here is my game of the day. It's a must-win for USC to keep their slim CFP hopes alive. And Oregon is eliminated from the Big Ten championship game with a loss, and maybe even the CFP because they have Washington the following week, so they could lose back-to-back if they have a letdown from USC.
I don't see as much as I would love to see Oregon lose, just because it'd be fun. Look, I always think it's fun when. Other than Ohio State, I think it's fun when other teams are getting beat by, teams that they're favored over.
Yeah.
But the problem here is that USC can't stop the run, and Oregon is going to run for 350 yards on them. There's Oregon still down their receiving core. I mean, they've got their top 2 receivers. I think they're still out, going into this week. So I feel like this is going to be a straight, we're just going to line up and run right at USC. And I don't think USC can stop the running game of Oregon enough to win this football game, as much as I would love to see it. But I think Mekhi Lemon he might be the best receiver in the country for USC, but I don't know that's going to be enough. Do you think they can stop the running game?
If their CFP hopes are on the line, they could bow up. They're slim hopes, but at number 15, they're still in striking distance, and a win over number 7 Oregon would help propel them up the chain. Could even propel them over Miami.
I think if USC wins that game with the fact that they have literally a last-second loss on the road at Illinois, and and it's not a good loss to Notre Dame, but if there's a team that you needed to, that you lose to, Notre Dame would definitely be, a team that, you could say, hey, they went to South Bend and lost that game. But yeah, I mean, I just don't see how they're going to stop the run. They just don't have, don't have the run defense.
I'm not saying Oregon or USC is going to win. I think I actually picked Oregon to win this one, but it is going to be a good game if USC does bow up and they're able to at least give some fits to Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I think.
Yep.
I think if USC this week in practice could figure out a package to help stop that Oregon run, I don't think Oregon right now can pass on USC to win the game. I think they need the run game, man. So if USC could figure something out this week in practice and give Oregon, the jitters, they might be able to get maybe a chip shot field goal to win.
Yeah.
Big maybe.
All right. Duke at North Carolina. Duke needs a whole lot to happen to make the AAC championship game, but they are eliminated if they do fall to the Tar Heels. ECU at UTSA. ECU is eliminated from the AAC and the CFP with a loss. UTSA has already beat Tulane. They're a tough team at home in the Alamo Dome. It could happen. We had
I don't think they've ever lost with this coach in the Alamo Dome.
I'd have to look that up. I don't have that readily available. In conference? Okay.
Yeah, I'd have to look
that one up. Number 24, Tulane at Temple. Obviously, Tulane's the CFP darling right now, so any loss will I think it's important to note. Yeah. Any loss will take them out, but it's important to note that the 3 weeks the CFP has been out, they've had 3 different darlings. First one was Memphis, who lost to Tulane. I believe. No, was it Tulane?
I think it was.
Yep. And then it was USF.
Mm-hmm.
Who
lost to
Navy, and now we're Tulane. So if I'm Tulane, I'm sitting there going, I don't want to be ranked yet. Rank me when I don't have a game next week. Then you have Kansas State at Utah. Utah's eliminated with a loss. Kansas State, I don't think this is going to be a great game, but it is important to note that Utah, it will be eliminated with a loss. Number 18, Michigan at Maryland. Michigan's eliminated with a loss. Indiana fans are going to be rooting for Maryland because they could clinch this week with a couple wins, Maryland being one of them. TCU at number 23, Houston. Houston's eliminated from the Big 12 championship game with a loss, and it could happen. TCU going down to Houston. Houston's fans do not travel well when Houston has a home game, so they'll be playing in front of an empty stadium again, I'm sure. Someone want to say something? I heard.
I was going to say, I think Cincinnati's a very dangerous team this weekend against BYU.
Yep.
Cincinnati coming off that loss to Arizona last week, which I thought, Cincinnati had everything to play for, and then they kind of blew that game, which Arizona is a much improved team this year over, his name's escaped me, the quarterback, Noah. He's one of the most fun quarterbacks to watch in college football, in my opinion. But I think that Cincinnati's kind of dangerous coming off that loss with BYU coming into Cincinnati. I think this could be an upset game for them.
Yep. And you're jumping the gun on me by the game.
Sorry.
But we'll get there.
I thought you already mentioned it.
No. Pitt at number 16, Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech clinches an ACC berth with a win. Pitt needs to win to try and cause as much mayhem as they can. And then you've got number 11, BYU at Cincinnati. Todd, you want to tell us about that one?
Well, I think that it's a very dangerous game for BYU. I think Cincinnati could look. Sorsby's like hot and cold recently. The last couple of weeks, he was really playing well, and then he kind of, fell off the last few weeks. But I feel like this could be a game where they jump out fast on BYU, like they did against Iowa State, and get a pretty good lead, and then kind of hang on at the end to win it. BYU still has a little bit of trouble passing the football consistently, so I like Cincinnati to pull the upset here. The line's only 2.5. Cincinnati's getting 2.5 at home. I really like Cincinnati to pull the upset this weekend.
All right.
Yeah, Cincinnati's head coach, former App State quarterback and great head coach, Scott Satterfield. So I'll be pulling for Cincy. That's the only note I have on it.
All right. BYU's eliminated from at-large contention with a loss. I don't think they can get an at-large bid if they lose to Cincy. They could still make the Big 12 championship game with some help. And then the last game, number 25, Arizona State at Colorado. Arizona State's eliminated from Big 12 championship and the CFP with a loss.
They should be eliminated from any and everything if they lose to Colorado this year.
Yeah, they're already eliminated. They just think they got something there. I don't know. Sam Levin's back this week. I haven't heard.
I haven't heard either, but I haven't been looking either. So
yeah. The other upset that let's go back a few there. Who was it?
Tulane, Temple, Michigan, Maryland, TCU, Houston, Pitt, Georgia Tech.
The Pitt Georgia Tech is definitely going to be an interesting game. If Pitt comes out and can throw the football like they've been throwing the football up until last week, it's going to be very challenging for Georgia Tech to win that game, because Georgia Tech's defense is just not good against the pass. So I think Pitt can pull that upset, honestly. And again, this kind of all blows back into this: how can the ACC not get a team in the playoffs, at least with the conference championship? And I mean, it could be this week here, and it could be a situation where Pitt beats Georgia Tech, but then loses to Miami the next week. There's a lot of potential things, and who knows, depending on what weather person you watch on TV around here. I mean, we've got predictions of no snow next week and some predictions up to 25 damn inches of snow here in the Midwest next week. It just depends on which dang channel you're watching. So could we see a snowstorm come through that could change a lot of these games, like Pitt going or Miami going to Pitt? Does Miami play well when there's 7 inches of snow on the ground? Well, history tells us no. So it'll be interesting to see. I've seen those projections, but I haven't seen those projections on my local news. I've only seen them on the TikTok weathermen. So we'll see what the weather looks like in that. But I think Pitt could definitely upset Georgia Tech this weekend if they can get the passing game going.
All right. Todd, I'm going to put you on the hot seat right now. You ready for this?
Sure.
What's that parlay you got going? What's your parlay this week?
Oh, God. I haven't even really dug into my parlay yet because, we're here on I've been so terrible at parlays recently. I haven't even picked them. But I like, it's such a weird week because we don't have, so many games are like, they're just so, I like Cincinnati in the points. I like USC in the 9.5, and I like Oregon in the money line. So I think USC can keep it. Like, I think they're going to keep it to about 8 or 9 points. So I like the 9.5. And I really like the Oklahoma-Missouri game under the 41.5.
Ooh.
So those are three that I guess if we were going to say that, I'd say Oklahoma in the under. I would say Oregon in the money line, and Pitt and the points. I don't remember what the points were. I want to say it was 3.5 maybe there. Georgia Tech giving 3.5.
I think it was 2.5.
2.5.
2.5.
So I'd probably say that would be a decent parlay there. But I really like the under in the Oklahoma-Missouri game.
All right. Dom, you want to give your Sunbelt money lines, betting parlay?
Oh man, we didn't have our usual show this week, so I don't have a lot of stuff off the top of the head. So let me just see real quick. I'm taking JMU with a 13.5 over Wazoo. I think they're gonna score as many points as they can because they know that mark with UNT and what they did to Wazoo, so they're going to try and replicate that as best as possible. I do agree with Todd, though. It is a dangerous game. I'm not saying it's going to be a blowout that's 59-10, but I think they can win by 2 touchdowns. They were only I think about the same. No, I'm sorry. I think it was an 18 to 20 point spread, depending on the sports book, for App State last week, and they hammered that one. So I feel comfortable saying JMU's going to get it done. I think ODU covers the 9.5 versus Georgia Southern easily. And third one, from what I saw from Coastal Carolina last week, take South Carolina in the 24.5 points. Even though South Carolina didn't win, we saw what they're capable of against a very good team in Texas A&M.
All right. Jack, you got anything? Or are you like me and just don't bet on sports?
Well, with being in football the last, 10 weeks, I really haven't looked at the money lines and the spread and been able to watch as many games as I would like. So I really don't have an opinion on this.
Good deal. I watch a lot of games, but I don't bet on sports, so I don't even put it out there.
I like Mercer in 27.5 on the road at Auburn.
Auburn might finally get their ranked win.
Yes, they could. But I think this is definitely a game where Mercer could. I don't see Auburn scoring like more than 42 points in this game. So the question is, can Mercer get, can they get 14 to 17 points and get that thing close enough? But Mercer's a pretty decent football team. And Auburn is going to be looking ahead for sure. There's no question about that.
Yeah.
Now the USC is getting 10.5. I like that even more. It was 9.5 the other day.
Nice.
I was just looking at the lines here real quick. Arkansas getting 8.5 against Texas could be an interesting. Arkansas still, if you look at who's Arkansas is, the only team that's really crushed Arkansas this year, surprisingly enough, is Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Everybody else has played them relatively close. UTSA getting points at home against East Carolina. We've already talked about UTSA has not lost. I don't think they've lost a home game under this head coach in that game. So those are all pretty interesting, if you want to build some type of parlay.
All right. I'm looking that up real quick. It's getting to me.
I heard it on I don't remember exactly stat, but when they were playing, when I watched that Tulane game, they said something to the effect that UTSA hasn't lost at home, and I thought it was under this coaching staff.
Since Jeff Traylor, who coached at Gilmer High School, which is where my nephews go to school, they go to the Gilmer School District. They're not in high school yet. Since Traylor took over in 2020, the team has a perfect 22-0 record in regular season conference home games and 24-0 record when including the 2 Conference USA Championship games played at home in 2021 and 2022.
Wow.
Yeah. So they're definitely
not nothing.
No, it's
Yep.
it's not nothing. What did I say that? I thought I just saw that line here somewhere again. Wherever it was. Of course, now when I want to find it's like social media. When you want to go back and find it, you can't find it. Well, anyways, I think they were getting 2.5 at home is what I remember saying. So them getting points at home could definitely be a good bet.
I like
Let's
it.
see. They are getting East Carolina's a 3.5-point favorite. Well,
Okay.
open at 3.5. Now they're a 2.5.
Yeah. Okay. So someone likes them.
Yep.
And then the over/under set at 62.5. Good deal. All right, Dominic, what do you got going on next week? Thanksgiving. I'm not 100% sure when or if we'll have a roundtable next week. I'll get with you guys after the show, see if you even want to try and work one out. But what's going on in Dominic's side of social media next week?
Nothing crazy. Tomorrow I head up to Boone to see Marshall take on App State. App State honoring the 2005 national championship, the first of their 3 straight. My co-host was on that team, so hopefully get to meet up with him. And next week should be kind of the usual, except for the Thanksgiving stuff, but not going anywhere. So luckily I'll be right here. If you need me, you know where to find me.
All right, Jack. No football.
Football.
What's your mindset heading into next week? What are you going to do that you haven't been able to do because of the football season?
Well, we get Thanksgiving break as well, so I'll be home. So I'll be able to hang out with the dogs, which I haven't been able to do in a while, and watch some more football and just watch some more football. I'm excited for it.
All right.
You'll overeat and work out less. That's right.
No.
He'll definitely work out. There's no question about that.
I actually played basketball for the first time in probably years
yeah.
yesterday
Nice.
or 2 days ago. I still suck.
Todd, what's going on your side of social media?
Well, we've got my normal show on Sundays, which will be, recapping this weekend. Luckily for me, I got to have a colonoscopy on, what happened to there we go. I got to have a colonoscopy this week. So I'm being prepared for that. So that'll be fun. And then we got, I think the best 3-day stretch of college football. We've got Thursday night, Thanksgiving night. We got the Memphis and Navy game.
Mm-hmm.
We've got Friday, just an absolutely great slate. We've, with Georgia Tech and Georgia at 3:30. We got Texas and Texas A&M at 7:30 Friday night. So it's going to be hard to get a show in on Friday with those games. And then obviously Saturday we got the game, and we got the Iron Bowl, and we've got so I think we're definitely there's stretches throughout the year. Obviously Labor Day is a great weekend because it's opening weekend, and we got Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday games, and we don't have NFL to screw up all the but I think this weekend coming up is really, in terms of the regular season, the best 3-day stretch of college football, with especially now that we have some really meaningful games on Thanksgiving night there. The Egg Bowl used to be on Thanksgiving night, but I feel like they changed that to game now to Friday. I can't remember when that game's scheduled, but
it's Friday at noon.
Yeah, because it used to be the Thanksgiving night game.
Yep.
And that was always one that was fun to sit down and watch. But yeah, so we got a really exciting week of football, and then obviously we have the championship games. We'll have pretty much everything nailed down, so we'll be able to really kind of dive into who's definitely in the playoffs, and then who can get things. So it's going to be a real exciting week after I get through the the first couple of days of the starving myself and doing that. But good news is I get that done on Tuesday, and then on Thursday I'll be ready to eat, and Friday I'll be ready to veg and see what what we can see. See if Haynes King can bite that turkey leg and take Gunnar Stockton to the wall this year.
Yep. Well, I will keep you guys updated. Like, follow, share all the social medias. We're about to play a credit reel, so if you need to deposit once we stop and go and follow everybody, do it. It helps us and really builds the platform, able to get us more views, more reach. So do that if you're still watching. I will post to my socials if we're going to do a CFP Roundtable next week. I've got a couple show ideas. Whether or not everybody else wants to join in on them, that's to be determined. So that's it. Does anybody have any final thoughts before we call this one a night?
We're getting to the best part of college football, but the end of the season and all the excitement. But man, it's been a crazy season all across the board. So I got a feeling we're going to get, even crazier here in the next 2 weeks and really shake this thing up and see if we can find some storylines that we weren't thinking of, even just today that could pop up, whether that be teams that are losing or coaching changes or, what we're going to find out with Lane Kiffin. So, everything is going to be, there's rumors out there that DeBoer wants to go to Penn State. I can't see that, but what if all of a sudden he did jump and went to Penn State, and then all of a sudden Lane Kiffin went to Alabama? It would shake up everything.
Wow.
What if Miss Terry wants Nick Saban out of the house and puts him back at LSU or something? I mean, it could be. Wouldn't that be something? Oh my God.
How about
Kiffin went to Alabama and somehow Nick Saban went to LSU?
or you put DeBoer up to Penn State and Saban comes back to Alabama.
Yeah. I think the thing about Nick Saban though is I don't think he wants to play the money game, the NIL. It doesn't fit his.
I believe that's why he retired when he did.
Yeah. I tell you, I don't want to be I'm a Ohio State homer in some ways, but look, if Ryan Day can go out there and beat Michigan and make a run to the national championship game, and whether he wins it or not, let's just say he does for this, is there an NFL job just waiting for him? And, could his son's a sophomore here in high school, a pretty good quarterback at DeSales High School. I don't think he wants to pull him in his last 2 years, his junior and senior year, but could the right position open up and Ryan Day makes the jump? Could be interesting.
Yep.
So, and listen, if you win back-to-back national titles at Ohio State, you could almost not do anything the rest of your career that would be worthy of, that's just, the expectation is to win every game and win every national championship here. If you win 2 and you beat Michigan, literally what else could you, there's nowhere to go. It's the expectation is to win 3, right? And you do have Julian Sayin and Jeremiah Smith coming back. But oh man, what could happen? There's going to be some NFL openings up.
Yeah, there's it's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to the end of the season, see where the chips lay, see what happens with the CFP, see what happens with these conference championship races. It's shaping up to be a fun end of season.
All right.
Sure.
Well, I'm sure we'll be texting tomorrow with the scores on what we're seeing there. So,
Well,
all right, gentlemen.
Todd, Jack, Dominic, thanks for joining me on the College Football Roundtable, and Jacob Blameyer, the Bronco believer, and Pops. Thanks for joining us earlier tonight, and we look forward to seeing y'all again on the next one. Y'all have a good
Awesome.
night, and
Good
get
night.
ready for some college football.
All right, guys. Have a good day.
Great night.
Thank you.